Chairman, you're ready to begin.
Okay, let's call this meeting to order. It is December 5th. Time is 7:01, so if we could, please, all stand and we'll do a prayer and a pledge. Is there anybody? No? Okay, I'm up. All right. Dear Jesus, listen to the prayers and requests from everybody here. Let us watch over all of you. Let him take care of you on the trip home. Let us answer the prayers of everybody that we have that are believers or non-believers. And if we can, let's ask for a prayer that there be peace in this world. With that, in the name of Jesus, amen. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. All right, if we could, let's do a roll call, please.
Danny Wilcox. Kevin Kirkwood. Kevin Kirkwood. Absent. Van Sands. Dwayne Owens. Eric Carlson. Mike Buck. Roger Burton. Roger Burton. Absent. Dee Shock Grace. Robert Politik. Chair, that concludes it.
Okay, cell phones. Next, staff report. Board of County Commissioners and actions. Do you have anything to report?
There was no Board of County Commissioners meeting at the end of November. We have no new things to report.
All right, thank you. Any consent agenda items?
There are no consent agenda items tonight.
Okay, next part is, this is citizen comments, and it's citizen comments unrelated to any application that we'll have tonight. So is there anybody who has any comments about anything? No? Okay.
Who wants to comment on the weather?
All right.
I thought there was very short notice for this meeting, meaning signage along the roads where you could see this development processing.
Okay, sir, that is related to the application, so, but I thank you for your comment.
Okay.
And if you could, when we get to the application that's related to this, please, okay, comment? All right. All right, do we have any meeting minutes?
Not at this time, no.
Okay, public hearing process. Let's go through this real quick so we can get on with this. We are a volunteer commission, a volunteer board. We are here as appointed by the commissioners, and what we do, we're a quasi-judicial group. We take the codes that are present, that are applicable to these applications, and we compare them. That's what we look at. So, the outcome of this hearing can be three things. And we can vote to approve, we can vote to disapprove, or we can vote to approve with conditions. Now, when I say approve, vote to approve, what I mean is all we can do as this board is recommend. So when we vote that we are recommending approval we are recommending denial, or we are recommending approval with conditions. So we have no process here, we have no ability here to change the rules, change the guidelines, change anything. So with that said, the process goes as this. We open the hearing, which I am doing now. The staff will present the application. Then I will go to the applicant and ask the applicant to present other information. Then we will go to citizen comment, and we will take note of every comment. Then we will go back and ask the applicant and staff to maybe answer questions that were brought up in comment. After that's completed, we will go to board discussion. And at that point, after board discussion, we will then vote. That is the process. I think we have 3 hearings tonight. So what we will do, we will open the first one with, it's the Maverick rezone, and it is RZ 220064. If you could please, Danny, or who is?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay.
All right, thank you everyone for coming tonight. Good to see you. Good evening. My name is Danny Klebanner. I'm a land use planner for Community and Economic Development Department here with Elbert County. The first case we'll be hearing is Maverick Rezone. It's an amendment to the Robinson subdivision, number 1, and the case number is RZ-22-0064. So the request for this project is a rezoning from agriculture 2 to agriculture residential. If approved, the applicant also has an application for a minor plat that would add a 10-acre lot. That will be decided administratively pending this rezoning application. The location for this project is 36200 County Road 1, also known as Delbert Road, Elizabeth, Colorado 80107. The applicant is Mary Kutchman, Mimi, and the owners are Mimi Kutchman and Jay Kutchman. So the process for this application began over a year ago with a pre-application meeting in September. Community meeting was held in October of 2022. The application was formally submitted November 21st, and it went through a referral process then from the 28th to December 19th. And here we are at the Planning Commission meeting December 5th. There is also a Board of County Commissioners meeting scheduled for this application on the 13th. All noticing complied with Elbert County zoning regulations and subdivision regulation for 14-day advance notice, with the Ranch Land News posting, mailings going out November 9th for a quarter mile, and the on-site sign posting November 8th. This property is located right at the border of Elbert County, just south of the Ponderosa Park subdivision. It's about 0.3 miles from there, and just on the border also with Douglas County. Here's an aerial view of the property in question, zoned A2 at the moment. You can see the residence off to the western portion of the property, and the rest is undeveloped. Another look at the property off Delbert Road and County Road 146. The newer Rock Haven subdivision can be seen just to the east, just created about a couple years ago, and there's a good view of the property. Here's a zoning map. As you can see, the property is highlighted in the middle is agriculture 2. To the south is A2. Then there's 2 agriculture residential. There's a couple of larger ag parcels to the north. And you can see some of the Ponderosa subdivision there. And here's Rock Haven off to the east. The applicant acknowledged and or resolved all comments raised during the referral process. Again, it was filed in November of 2022 and completed referral reviews. The main hindrance to this application was water. And after the first referral period, the applicant worked with the State of Colorado Division of Water Resources to address water supply. All comments and red lines have been resolved. The referral process ended with our receipt of a letter from the Colorado Division of Water Resources on October 16th. So in Elbert County, we have 6 criteria for all rezone requests, and that's in Article 3C4 of Elbert County zoning regulations. The Planning Commission and Board of County Commissioners are to consider these criteria in their review of the application, and I will go through the 6 criteria. The first, A, whether the proposed rezoning conforms to and is generally consistent with the goals and policies of the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. This proposal does conform to and is generally consistent with the goals and policies of the Comprehensive Plan. Community Resources Topic WS4 states that new development shall conform to state laws covering domestic water supply and septic systems. This proposal complies with that policy. In addition, the Natural Resources Area, EN2, states that new developments should minimize negative impacts to adjacent agricultural lands and designated open space. This is in a heavily residential area, and the proposal to allow limited expansion of residential uses should not adversely impact the surrounding agriculture nor the residents that surround this property. B, whether the proposed rezoning is compatible with the surrounding land uses. The subject property is in a more quickly developing area within the county. The closest lots smaller than 5 acres are in Ponderosa Park, just over 0.3 miles away, and there are adjacent 10-acre lots. The proposed rezoning to agriculture residential is compatible with surrounding land uses, maintaining the residential and agricultural larger lot context of the immediate adjacent lots as well. C, whether this proposed rezoning will adversely impact the provision of public services. Public Works, our county engineer, and Douglas County reviewed this proposed rezoning and access for the new lot from County Road 1, North Delbert Road, and that should not adversely impact the provision of public services. D, whether the proposed rezoning would adversely impact the environment. We do not believe that this rezoning will adversely impact the environment. Building permit review and public works septic review for on-site wastewater treatment systems can identify any site-specific environmental factors upon development. Again, the Division of Water Resources also reviewed this proposed well water supply and deemed it adequate. The Kiowa Conservation District had no objections with this rezoning. And finally, E and F, whether the proposed rezoning would create unreasonable traffic congestion or burden the existing road system without improvements. The addition of one lot is not believed to create unreasonable traffic burdens. Public Works did not identify any improvements that would be necessary, and the new lot will have private access through an easement through the existing lot. Finally, F, whether the proposed rezoning will not otherwise be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the inhabitants of Elbert County. I believe that this rezoning request to agriculture or residential will not be detrimental to the county residents' health, safety, or welfare. There are no outstanding critical concerns, and the water supply was determined to be adequate by the state. So my findings are that Elbert County Planning recommends the Planning Commission to recommend approval for the requested Maverick rezone RZ-22-0064, subject to the following conditions. The applicant will be required to remove the public hearing sign within 7 days of any decision by the Board of County Commissioners. The rezoning shall not become effective until all fees are paid, conditions of approval are met, and the exhibits are recorded. Recordation of all appropriate documentation to occur within 180 days of the Board of County Commissioners' approval. And the fee includes any impact fees that would be from developing the new lot at the time of building permit, and a 4% fee for cash in lieu of open space of the appraised lot. Thank you. That's my presentation for the Maverick rezone case RZ 220064. I appreciate your time. Here's a look at the rezoning exhibit and the subdivision, Robinson subdivision that was approved in 1998. It'd be an amendment to this approved subdivision. And I'll welcome any questions or comment. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, the applicant is Mary Kuchman or representative. You have any? Cool. Please.
I don't think that I really have anything to add. That was pretty thorough.
Okay, so what we will do at this point, thank you. But listen, if we have public comment, there may be some questions that you might be able to answer.
Perfect.
Okay? If we could, do we have citizen comments on this application? Seeing none, let's go around the board. Start down there. None.
Just make sure to turn on your mic. Your mic is off there.
Okay, I don't know if I'm reading this incorrectly but if you could go down to the page 3 of the staff stuff with the referrals. And maybe I've just got my stuff backwards, but are you down there? So it's in number 2, the existing service in the area is to be served by the districts is inadequate for present and projected needs.
Where are you reading from?
I'm on page 3 of where it says referrals, review and analysis, evaluation. What's the electronic page? It says on here 3. What do I know?
Sure it's not past 10.
I don't know.
It's on the whole.
Hang on a minute.
If it was any question from the about the water, I put the initial comments for the referral, and then they cleared all comments, and the final letter from the Colorado Division of Water Resources was also included that says they have adequate water for their rezoning.
Okay, but did you see what I'm saying when I said that it says it's inadequate? So you're telling me then that it's all reversed now?
Yeah, so it took time. That's what took the applicant more time, was to go through with the Colorado Division of Water Resources and the augmentation plan for their additional lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to know why it said that, so that works then.
Mm-hmm. So that comment just had to do with an alignment. Basically, they have what's more like a flag lot, so they own the access, and it's really basically some people think it actually works better if they own the access, but instead they've used an easement to address that. So they have an easement that's just south of the bridle easement for the property access, and that's where that comment comes from. It's if you have a lot with an extending piece to a road, that technically doesn't meet minimum lot width standards. That doesn't apply to this. They have an easement. There's different ways to do it, either ownership of that piece of land that goes to the county road or an easement. And the previous planner who was working on this, I wasn't there at the time, determined they'd rather do it as an easement than the ownership extending to the county road. Yeah, for the Robinson subdivision.
My point or question is, does that cause a liability issue where, because it's a public document, someone who might, a neighbor or something who might assume that there's a access through this bridle easement, is that right now taken away again because it wasn't clearly written?
I think the bridle easements will exist after this. It seems like it's a very small subdivision that's used by, I think, mainly the Kutchmans for the bridle easements in general. I think there should be no change to the bridle easements.
Any more questions? Okay. Vote. I have a motion. It is Maverick Rezone RZ 220064.
Thank you.
I make a motion to recommend approval for RZ 22-0064. Have a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
We need an individual vote, or was that unanimous? Okay, okay. Next one on the agenda is Sterling Crossing. It's a PUD rezoning amendment.
All right, I'm going to get this queued up. Hold on one second. All right, and Sandra Hoffman will be presenting this case for us here. She cannot be here tonight. And Sandra, if you'd like to share your screen, and we can listen into your presentation.
All right, great. Well, good evening, everyone. Can you see the image on the screen?
Yes, we can see the image and we can hear you.
Wonderful. Well, good evening, Chairman and Planning Commission members. I'm Sandra Hoffman. I'm a senior associate with Logan Simpson. I'm a contract site plan reviewer for Elbert County, and I have the pleasure tonight of presenting the Sterling Crossing PUD rezoning amendment. The rezoning amendment is basically changing from a PUD zoning that they originally have for 113 dwelling units and 26 acres of commercial, and changing it just to an amended PUD to allow additional residential uses and less commercial use. The area of the size for the site is about 197 acres almost, and it's located at the southeast corner of Delbert Road, which is County Road 1, and East County Road line, which is County Road 194. The information there is, again, the pre-application meeting. I'll go over some of that in a few minutes, but July 6th is when they had the pre-application meeting of 2023. And obviously today is the Planning Commission hearing on this. Referrals were sent out at, let me get the times here. The first application came in on August the 1st of 2023, and we did 3 referrals through finishing in actually November 27th. The last comments came back in for this project. So the location of the project, the vicinity map shows you there. It's the darker sort of blue color with the word site in it. It's just on the sort of southeast corner of Elbert Road and County Line Road. So the surrounding zoning to the north is Arapahoe County, to its undeveloped land. To the south is residential agriculture, which is large lot residential, a little bit of equestrian uses down there. East is residential agriculture as well, so it's more open land, large lot, single family. West is Douglas County. They have sort of large lot residential agricultural uses. And the northwest corner is the city of Aurora, which has a master plan community with a lot smaller size lots and single family and a golf course. So the PUD rezoning exhibit here, it shows you graphically kind of the flow of where the circulation will be, where the streets will be internally to it. It has different development areas shown on there. But what it really shows is that the layout has the lots towards the sort of northwest corner of the site, and then there's open space to the south and to the east. And it shows a variety of different parcels to the south and a little bit to the east as well. There is a bit of a drainage area that goes through that open space to the south, so that was part of the reason, and I'll explain later how that's going to help preserve some of the natural terrain in that area by having it open space. Referrals were sent out to all the people and the entities listed on the screen there. The comments have been addressed through the process, and there's very little outstanding comments. There is one condition that we'll talk about a little bit. We're just assuring that Elbert County staff have an opportunity to review some things for the road improvements, because again, Douglas County is to the west, and you've got Arapahoe as well as city of Aurora up there that also have some rights in relating to the traffic and circulation. But the only comment that came back was the Colorado Division of Water Resources that had some concerns, but then they resolved that. They did come back with a determination, and the water supply, as we'll discuss later, is coming from the city of Aurora. So that is a confirmation that did come through the referral process. So the Sterling Crossing review criteria, the amendment does meet the goals and policies of the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan and the guides and standards in the zoning regulations for planned unit development. And as a review criteria, it looks at in the zoning regulations, innovative approaches to residential, commercial, and recreational land uses. And this project, Sterling Crossing, meets that because it has innovative residential design options that are available. It has a lot of 50% or greater open space, and as we'll talk a little bit later, it has addressed the wildlife corridor areas and the fencing design to ensure that it protects the environment. So there are 6 PUD review criteria that need to be met, and the first one is that the proposed rezoning conforms to and is generally consistent with the goals and policies of the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. And there's a list on the screen there. The land use goal is met because they're encouraging a range of lot sizes. And definitely as we go through, you'll see that the development does provide that and has the different density and options up there to be affordable housing. Commercial development goals are met because there is some commercial development proposed, and it's in proximity to the existing roadway systems with the county roads, and so it fits in with that comprehensive plan policy. Transportation goal is met, safety and proximity, as we'll go through that, because there is multiple roadway accesses outside the site going out and beyond, and also internally to the site. And a special district goal is met as you go forward, because there is going to be a district that's formed is going to maintain the roads and open space and the public amenities for the project. It also, as it continues with this one for the comprehensive plan, water and sewer and waste disposal is met. Again, as I mentioned, the Department of Water Resources and the City of Aurora will be providing the water and sewer for the project, and there's assurances there for that. Parks and open space goal are met because at least 50% of the project's going to be open space, and a majority of it undisturbed. And then there's several parks that will be included in the project. And then wildlife goal is being met, as I mentioned earlier, because of the open space, minimizing the disruptions, working with the terrain and the environment that currently exists there. And there's some water flows through there that, again, will be protected because it's being open space. And then the fencing designs will be in a manner that will help the wildlife. The second one is the proposed rezoning compatible with the surrounding land uses? And as mentioned, there's an open space buffer to the south and to the east. And so for the larger lot residential that exists in Elbert County, there is a large buffer area with that open space protecting those areas from those rural subdivisions. To the northwest, as I mentioned, the City of Aurora's got a very dense type of development there. And so this is actually a transitional type of a project where it's not going to be as dense as what you would see on the northwest corner across the intersection. This is less than that. And so there's sort of a transition that heads into Elbert County. The proposed rezoning will not adversely impact the provisions of public services. As I mentioned, the water and sewer will be provided by the City of Aurora, so there's nothing that the Elbert County is going to have to be responsible for regarding that. And the project is also proposing to offer some alternative school education uses. So we talked to Douglas County School District, and that was one of the things they asked for, and that's what the applicant has provided. And so those options will be available in the commercial areas. Number 4 is the proposed rezoning would adversely impact the environment. And again, it's low impact because they are having so much open space. There's so much clustering the development to the sort of north and west part of the site. Again, heading towards where that really dense growth is and development in the City of Aurora. And the design works with the topography. They're not having any buildings that are going to be in slopes of 20% or greater, or anything that might have floodplain issues or flood issues. And again, the wildlife habitats are protected. And number 5, the proposed rezoning will not unreasonably cause traffic congestion or burden to the existing road system. So there's 4 access points to manage traffic. And there's an agreement with Douglas County to help pay for some funds later on for the improvements to East County Line Road, which would be west of Delbert Road. So it's already been worked out with the different jurisdictions and entities to understand the growth in projects like this project will add with the 308 possible dwelling units. And then the trail system connections are going to be included, and one of the stipulations relates, I think, to that, where they're going to make sure they have that with the preliminary plat. They're going to have a variety of different trail systems that connect to the regional trail systems. They're going to have a variety of different types of trail systems. So to the south, there's some equestrian, horse owners down there. And so the trail system on the far south side of the site, where it's all open space, will have more trails related to horse riding and equestrians. And then other trails closer to where the development is will be more for walking, hiking, biking kind of trails. And the 6th one is the proposed rezoning will not be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the present and future inhabitants. And again, the uses that they're including in the plan unit development aren't going to be high pollution creating ones, not loud noise disruptive ones. It's, single family homes, open space, some small commercial type of uses, retail, things that the neighborhood needs when they want to be able to live out there and not have to go far to maybe go pick up a pizza or groceries or something. And then preserving 50% of the property will, again, minimize the impacts to the surroundings, provide a visually appealing buffer along the perimeter. So staff recommends that the Planning Commission find the following. 1, that the proposed rezoning is in general conformance to the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. Number 2, the proposed rezoning meets all the criteria for approval in the Elbert County zoning regulations, so it does meet those. The proposed rezoning meets the requirements of the Elbert County regulations for a PUD, which it does, and the proposed rezoning will not result in significant impact to the health, safety, and welfare of the residents and landowners in the surrounding area. So we recommend, the staff recommends that Planning Commission recommend approval for the Sterling Crossing Elora PUD rezoning amendment, PD-2023-2003, case number. And there will be 4 conditions that we recommend. First, that the applicant will be required to remove the public hearing sign within 7 days of a decision by the Board of County Commissioners. 2, that an intergovernment agreement with the City of Aurora and Douglas County should be completed prior to the final plat approval for water, sewer, off-site rights-of-way infrastructure improvements, and that the perpetual maintenance of water and sewer infrastructure will be the responsibility of the City of Aurora once it's been accepted by the final inspection. And then Sterling Crossing developer must send Elbert County road and bridge staff the plan reviews for the right-of-way improvements that are proposed in those county roads that surround to the north and to the west. So then again, the Elbert County has an opportunity to comment on any road designs or improvements that will be happening. And then 4, as I mentioned, the trail graphic must be provided with the to show the locations with the preliminary plat, so that we would understand exactly what kind of graphically where those trails will be located and the type of trails, what they would be in regards to circulating throughout the site and going beyond to the regional trail systems. Thank you again. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. And let me know, Danny, if you want me to go back to any specific slide, please.
All right, I will. Thank you for your presentation, Sandy.
Thank you. Okay. Our applicant is Mr. Sheldon? Yes, sir. Okay. Please, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Dan Sheldon with Miller United Real Estate, 6900 East Bellevue Avenue, Greenwood Village, Colorado, 80111. Danny, could we get the PowerPoint, ours loaded up, please? Yeah. Thank you.
Load up your PowerPoint.
Thank you. Great. Perfect. And there's no clicker for me, so Danny, do I just tell you next slide?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, just tell me when.
All right, we can go to the next slide. All right. Planning Commissioner, so our development team is with us today. Over the phone with us right now is the landowner's representative. He is logged in and available to speak, maybe saying a few words during our presentation. Also, the developer, that's my company, MU Elora. That is a subsidiary of Miller United Real Estate. Our civil engineer, LJA, is here. Our traffic consultants from SM Rocha are here tonight, as are Norris Design representatives. They're our planning firm. Next slide, please. The stakeholders, you're aware of who these folks are, but yourselves, the commissioners, the City of Aurora, because of the IGA that we have entered into with them for water and sewer on the north side of County Line Road. Douglas County, because they own and maintain the entire right-of-way of Delbert Road, which is why you saw one of the restrictions or one of the conditions for approval tonight is that we enter into an IGA with them for services to that road. Rattlesnake Fire Protection, we've been in touch with Chief Kilduff there, and he's been a referral agency so far through the process, as has Douglas County Schools, where our residents' children would be going. We've been working closely with them on the schools and whether or not they wanted a school site within our property. And as staff had mentioned, we may actually have something cooking with them. We don't know yet. It's going to be clearly up to them as to whether or not they want to put some kind of school facility within our project. If they did, it would be a very small facility. It would be like an early childhood daycare type facility, and it would be located within our commercial area right at the corner of Delbert Road and County Line Road. But again, we don't know that that's happening or not. And then the Elora Metropolitan Districts, we're going to be hearing that next up on your agenda tonight, is the service plan amendments. And then the surrounding residents, of course, whom we have engaged with via both community meetings as well as individual one-on-one interaction with the neighbors around the perimeter of our property. Next slide. Just a little bit about us. We've been around doing this a good little while now, and we work with our industry professionals, which leads to successful projects. Collaboration with the community and with the stakeholders, including the planning commissions and the city councils and the county commissioners and water and sewer districts and all those things. That's a big part of what we do, and it's a cornerstone of how we make our projects successful. Next slide. I just have 5 quick slides. I'm not going to get into detail about them, but I just wanted to show you a sampling of some of the projects we've done in the metro area. This is near the the applicant that you had in here before us, Maverick, they own property right near here, but it's not, you didn't hear about that property tonight. But this is in Parker. It's called the Overlook at Cherry Creek. We did this one a few years ago. Next slide. This is down in Castle Rock, Crystal Valley West, 24 acres of mixed use there. We donated a site to the fire department there. Next slide. This is in Commerce City, 250-ish units of variety of different product, townhomes, duplexes, and some small single-family homes. A little bit of retail at the corner. Similar, this is about similar size retail that we're proposing at our subject property that you're hearing tonight. So this had about 7 acres of retail and convenience uses. Next slide. This is up in Fort Collins, another 270-ish unit project that we're still working on right now. Next slide. Another Commerce City project. This was purely a single-family detached, similar to what we're proposing here, single-family homes. And that's what this is up in Commerce City, and this one's breaking ground right now. Next slide. And finally, this is our Carl's Farm project in North Glen. It's got a couple hundred units of residential. We've got a senior living facility, some apartments, and then about 8 retail pads, most of which are under construction, coming out of the ground right now, going vertical right now. Next slide. One final point before I turn it over to Mark from Norris, who's going to be continuing with the presentation. One thing that we are proud of is we pick a local partner in the jurisdictions in which we work, whether it's a city or a county, and we collaborate with that group, and we try to figure out how we can help that nonprofit organization. And so we are working on partnering up with a local Elbert County nonprofit right now. We have not struck a deal with them yet. The deal has no strings attached for this entity, and I think when I reached out to them recently and said, we'd like to partner with you, and what I mean by partner is we literally, at our land closing, when we go sell our land to the home builder or builders, as it may be, we end up writing a check to this nonprofit. No strings attached. It's just our way of giving back to the communities in which we do business. When I called and spoke to the local nonprofit recently about including them as part of our giving, they were a little skeptical, as you might expect. They said, "What's the catch?" And I said, "There is none." They said, "We need to sit down and talk a little bit more about it." And we're going to do that in January. But needless to say, one of our company goals is to, everywhere where we go do business, we like to give back to the community. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mark Kiefer from Norris Design. He's going to walk you through the details of our actual application. We're going to try real hard not to be redundant because your staff did a nice job of presenting her report. I'm around, available after the presentation to answer any questions. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Again, my name is Mark Kiefer with Norris Design. It's great to be in front of you again. I also wanted to just reiterate what Dan was just alluding to. I've been doing work here in Elbert County for the past couple of years, and I have seen a tremendous amount of professionalism. It's increasing every time that I come down here with your staff. And I would have never guessed a year ago that we would be doing this meeting partially via Zoom, but also just the comprehensiveness of your staff review comments now are completely different than what we had started many years ago. So it's a compliment to your staff and the people that you have working for you, including the people that you have on the planning side, but also on the engineering side too. So with that, next slide. Just want to go over our request. This is what we are here for. As Sandra Hoffman had mentioned, this is a PUD amendment. This is an existing PUD that was zoned back in 2007. And over the course of 16 years, a lot's changed, as you can imagine, both from a market perspective, but also just demand for housing. So what we have seen, at least in the past 16 years, is a tremendous amount of activity related to growth, particularly in this area. As Sandra had mentioned, you see a lot of development from coming down from Aurora, as well as east from Douglas County, or growing east from Douglas County. So in this area, it's just the confluence of those particular areas. So what we want to look at in terms of revisiting the old Sterling Crossing PUD are a couple updates to it. First and foremost, I want to mention too that you probably see in your packet that there is a reference to Sterling Crossing, which is the original zoning, and Elora. Elora is the new name that we'll be using from this point forward. We're using Sterling Crossing for this application primarily because that's what the original PUD was called. So this is just a moment in time where we're using both names, Sterling Crossing and then Elora. So with that though, the other things that we're bringing up to date on, over the past 16 years, your codes have changed a lot, your zoning ordinances and your subdivision codes. So what we're doing now is bringing this project in conformance with your existing codes and regulations, both from zoning, subdivision, but as well as road and bridge too. There are a lot of changes that have been made there. We're modifying the standards too in this PUD, as you have probably heard from other PUDs. There's a set of development standards associated with this. What we're doing now is upgrading those. And if you have ever had a chance to look at the original Sterling Crossing PUD development standards, they're minimal. There really weren't that many specific standards in terms of park development, neighborhood development, signage, things like that. It was probably just a handful of comments. What we're doing now is, again, bringing it up to modern standards, at least in terms of your development, the ability that you have as a county to enforce development standards on this property. The third thing that I want to mention too, the original PUD, which we'll talk about in just a minute, I'll show you a copy of the existing PUD. There was an existing commercial site on the corner of Elbert and County Line Road that was approximately 26 acres. And for whatever reason, back in 2007, they felt that that was a viable option. Over the course of time, we've done several market studies, internal market studies, and Dan's background and his firm, as you had heard, also has a lot of background in commercial development. They initiated some studies whether or not that was actually viable for this particular area. The conclusion there in terms of the market analysis was that there is a demand for some commercial use, but certainly not 26 acres. When we took that conversation, and I'll talk about this again in the next couple slides, when we took this information to some of our neighbors out there in our community meetings and some of the outreach that we have done with our neighbors to the south, the east, and also to the west, I think again, I can only speak for myself in terms of my observation, but there was a collective sigh of relief when we told them that we're not doing 26 acres of commercial development. The noise, the light, the traffic, and everything else that they felt that they were going to be living with, those that knew the zoning that was done in 2007, I think that they felt that this was a much better option for them in terms of preserving their rural lifestyle out there, but also providing them some convenience for a small commercial site right on the corner of County Line Road and Delbert. I'll compare the plans in just a moment, but then another update too that we're talking about is an increase in parks and open space. The original Sterling Crossing PUD had essentially no developed parkland within it. There were open space tracts within the Sterling Crossing project, but no developed parks that would be serving the neighborhood or area residents in the area, including trails. There was a trail system internally to the project, but there weren't any connections to the equestrian trails to the south in the Sky Rim area or other locations like that. So that was another upgrade that we included in this new plan. And then last, the metro districts. There were 2 metro districts that were approved back in 2007 as well, and you'll hear about that in the next item too, next item on your agenda. But really the importance there is, which you'll hear in that next public hearing, this brings the metro district standards up to current standards as well. So this does require 2 metro districts, one for the commercial site and one for the residential area. But again, we're bringing that up to modern standards as well. Next slide, Danny. The location, and again, I think Sandra described it very well, but this perspective here shows you that it's right on the very northwest corner of Elbert County, not too far away from E470 in the Southlands area. Immediately to the west in Douglas County is Piney Lakes Trails. It's an existing subdivision that's under construction right now in Douglas County. To the northwest is Blackstone, and those of you, I'm sure you've seen that area up there. It's a developed site with a golf course. And then immediately to our north is the Overland Ranch project in Aurora, a project that's just starting construction right now. It's in the subdivision process, and that's within the city of Aurora. So the county line is our northern boundary. Delbert County, or Delbert Road rather, is our western boundary. Sky Rim subdivision is to the south, an existing rural subdivision to the south. And then we have our neighbors to the east that we've also talked to quite a bit. Next slide, Danny. So again, I just want to recap some of the history. We've talked about it. Sandra Hoffman has mentioned it too, but the original zoning was done in 2007. The original PUD plan in Sterling Crossing had 26 acres of commercial and 113 residential lots, all single-family residential lots. Had 2 metro districts formed, similar to this program, one for the commercial site, one for the residential area. And a preliminary plat was also approved about that time in 2007. It was fairly close to the zoning, the PUD zoning in 2007, 16 years ago. So a preliminary plat was actually done as well, but there had been no construction or nothing happened after that. So the site is still vacant. I think there have been some cattle on it occasionally, but really it has not been utilized at all. Next slide. So this is a kind of a graphic example of what the existing Sterling Crossing PUD looks like. We had to use this graphic standard here because the old plan, I don't know if you're familiar with some of your history here in Elbert County, but some of your old documents were destroyed in a flood in the basement here. But there are a few documents that were preserved and scanned. The original Sterling Crossing graphic is really hard to read. We do have a copy of it, and it's the original signed copy. So we had to recreate it on this graphic, but this kind of shows you what it looks like. The orangish area, PA3, that's the commercial site that would be on the northwest corner of the property. The yellow buff-colored areas are the residential tracts, the residential areas that were originally proposed. And then the green areas were the open space areas. You can see, as I mentioned, there's a little trail system that meanders through there, and that was the only indication of a trail or any recreation use at all within the Sterling Crossing project. Another, 2 other points too, that the southern area in the PA2, the planning area 2 portion of the project, those were planned for large estate lots, similar to, but a little smaller than the Sky Rim property to the south. But that's what the intent was. There were going to be large lots, large custom lots, and butting up right up to the southern property line. So part of this plan too, and this is I think probably the most important thing that I would want to get across to the Planning Commission tonight, one of the most important things about that plan versus what we're proposing now is how utilities were going to be developed. This plan had a single well site and a sewer plant proposed for it within their metro district. And again, I don't know what they were thinking 16 years ago. It would have been very, very difficult and very expensive to do that. But you can see the larger square was a sanitary sewer plant that was going to be proposed for this project. And then the smaller square up there was actually a well pad site where they were going to drill wells and mine the water underneath the property for this project. What we are proposing now, and next slide please, is sorry that got bunched up there. What we have right now is an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Aurora to provide water and sewer services to this project. It's not unusual, but it is the first time Elbert County has had this type of activity. It's not, and I want to be crystal clear on this, it's not an annexation to the city of Aurora. It's intergovernmental water service agreement, water and sewer service agreement, where the city is extending their water and sewer lines for a fee. It's pricey, but it is something that they're in the business of selling water, and we're a customer of theirs. So that water then, and all the development associated with this project, is being served by a central water and sewer system from the city of Aurora. The water rights that exist underneath the property will not be used for this project at all. So adjoining property owners, the existing well sites that our neighbors have, will not be affected at all with this water system. The water, as I said, just want to reiterate, is not being used. The groundwater associated with this project is not being used for the development of this site. So that intergovernmental agreement is been signed now. We have it agreed to with the city. It was approved by their city council on September 26th of this year. The intergovernmental agreement is between the city of Aurora and the metro districts within the Sterling Crossing project right now, which would then be transferred to the new Sterling Crossing Elora metro districts, which you'll hear about in our next hearing. And a fully executed copy of that IGA should be in your packets if you've had a chance to look at that. As Sandra had mentioned, as a condition, the maintenance and perpetual maintenance of those water and sewer lines are ultimately the city of Aurora's responsibility. Our districts will be building them, and over the course of the warranty period, I don't recollect the number of, I think it's a year, but there's a warranty period that is operated or maintained by the metro districts and then ultimately turned over to the city of Aurora. So it becomes an infrastructure commitment that the city is responsible for, not the district. So, with that, I just wanted to point out that this is not an unusual agreement, for the city of Aurora. The project immediately west of us in Douglas County also has a similar agreement. It's in Douglas County. And that was the template, if you will, that we had used in the development of this particular agreement on the Elbert County side. Throughout the course of this project, too, we've been working with your staff and kind of updating them on this. As you had heard from Sandra Hoffman's presentation, that involvement, that negotiation, that discussion also involved the state engineer's office because they, too, wanted to understand how this particular dynamic works. The water not being used for the site, our existing underground water not being used for the site, but being provided by the portfolio that the city of Aurora has. So if I can get the next slide. One of the other things that we really put a lot of emphasis on this, we knew going into this project that we do have a lot of neighbors, both in other jurisdictions as well as Elbert County. I think as an Elbert County project and our commitment to Elbert County is Dan had mentioned before, we made a concerted effort and outreach to our neighbors on the Elbert County side. So we had not only the required community information meeting in July, where we had a fairly good attendance. That's actually a picture of it at the Rattlesnake Fire District. But we also had several other outreach programs that we've worked closely with our neighbors, especially to the south and to the east. We'd also made it outreach to the folks that live in Douglas County as well. We also recognize that they are going to be our neighbors, and they use Elbert Road in addition to that. So we've also had worked with them considerably, one-on-one mostly in those areas. And I would also say too, as part of that, our outreach included working with Douglas County, because again, they're the ones that are responsible for some of the road improvements on Delbert Road, and we're ultimately going to have to be coordinating with them on our future accesses to Delbert Road. So that connection is what is also being made along with your engineering department in Elbert County. So one of the other unique aspects of this project, and I have to compliment my client, Dan Sheldon, because he has made this a priority to all of us on the consulting team, that we have to work, that we have to work with our neighbors and reach out to these folks. One of the important parts of that is to create a website. So there is an actual website that we started right after our community information meeting that was open to anybody. We advertised that. It describes the project, it describes the steps we're going through, it describes the process, it describes our plans and everything else that has transpired in those meetings. So, and I think, I had some of our folks just check that, how many hits there have been on that, and it's been close to 1,000 so far, which is pretty substantial for a small website and a smaller project in this area. So we believe our outreach is working in that regard. So I just want to also show you one of the results of that outreach in the next slide, Danny. When we first started this project and we made our initial application to the county, you can see the slide to your left there is the original concept. The original concept included those estate lots similar to the original Sterling Crossing PUD. We did modify the commercial area and everything else, but that was the original application that we had contemplated. Through the course of our community information meeting and also subsequent meetings that we had with particularly our neighbors to the south and to the east, Elbert County residents, we modified it to look like what you see today in the application today. That drawing on the right is what is represented in your packet right now as our PUD. So what we've done is basically consolidate all the open space. We've committed to dedicating over 50% of it as open space, which means now it fits into your category within your subdivision code as a conservation subdivision. Again, going back to my original comment, this is one of those upgrades that we now are reconciling with your existing codes. So we're taking advantage of that conservation subdivision definition by restricting development on over 50% of the site right now. With that, we have about over 1,200 feet of separation between us, our development site, and our neighbors to the south, and about 300 feet to the east from our neighbors to the east. So there's a fairly substantial buffer on all those areas. As part of that project too, and again in the subsequent applications, which you'll hear about in the future, the preliminary plat and the final plats and everything else, there's an extensive drainage area that's also being designed right now. And our civil engineering team from LJA is looking at that draw that runs through the middle of that open space into our neighbors to the east, and hopefully working with, I know we will be working with your engineering department to making sure that any flooding, future historic flooding, is mitigated and creating a better situation than exists out there today. So with that, we've also added about 7 acres of developed park site. These are develop parks for tot lots, gazebos, things like that, that are actually for the people, not just open space tracks. As we mentioned too, there's a system of trails too that we're working with that will be coming at the preliminary plat level. One of the reasons why we got most of it figured out in the developed portion of this project, but in that more open space track, because of the topography out there and some of the wildlife considerations that the state has raised, we wanted to make sure that those trails and equestrian trails are developed in a way that would not impact those sites and will be done with minimal grading. So that's coming in the subdivision part of our project, the next step of this development. Next slide. So again, I just want to recap some of the highlights of this plan. This is a rendered version of the PUD that you have in your packet right now. It's got 5 acres of commercial site, down from 26. It has 2 developed park sites, amounting to over 7 acres of parkland. It increased the buffer of the existing properties to the east and the south. We have 308 new home sites on the project. And a new set of PUD development standards, which again, I know that you've been seeing a lot of those lately in some of these other applications before you, but they're a fairly extensive set of development standards that really talk about everything from site design, monuments, parks, park development, signage, so the whole gamut of things that did not exist before with the original Sterling Crossing PUD. Next slide. So just want to wrap things up and just reiterate what you heard from Sandra Hoffman already. But this is an amendment of an existing PUD. As you know, a PUD is a zoning district within your zoning resolution. An amendment to it is like a complete rezoning too, by the way. I think if you're familiar with the other projects in Elbert County, there's been a couple where the PUDs have basically been completely rewritten, which is essentially a whole new rezoning application. So with that, it brings your zoning map and your zoning documents up to date. And then part of this process that we're undertaking, other than just being here tonight in front of you, but also working towards meeting all the existing standards you have right now in your current zoning resolution. Any other previous agreements that existed with the old Sterling Crossing PUD, which are fairly minimal, but also making sure that we do have this fairly strong emphasis on our community outreach in recognition that we do have a lot of neighbors out there that we want to be very, very aware of and get their input on. So next slide. And again, I just want to, this has already been covered by Sandra Hoffman, but the approval criteria, I just want to reiterate some of these criteria that come out of your existing zoning resolution. The proposed PUD conforms to and is generally consistent with the goals and policies of the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. One point I'd like to make there too, if you're not familiar with one of your documents, I'm sure you all probably have seen it, but it's worth a read if you haven't, is your housing policy, a recently adopted housing policy, which is part of your comprehensive plan. It's a great document talking about the future vision of Elbert County and providing for diverse housing opportunities for future residents and expanding the mix of housing for folks, for younger families moving in the area and folks that probably don't want to necessarily live on another 5 or 10 acre tract of land. That's all in your housing policy right now, and that's what we're trying to endeavor here. We believe that another approval criteria were compatible with existing surrounding land uses. The compatibility issue, again, this is one of those items that's always talked about, and I'm sure in front of this board several times, I know. Compatibility is defined in this situation as being increased open space and separation between our existing rural neighbors to the south and the west and our project. So what we're doing here is, in compliance with your comprehensive plan, is creating a cluster development with the conservation subdivision, but increasing the setback and buffer against those existing neighbors to our south and to our east. On the other hand, going north, into Aurora, across county line, those lots are actually a little bit smaller than what we have right now. And to the east, or to the west, on the Douglas County side, it's a fairly similar development pattern on the other side of Delbert Road in Douglas County. So we feel that we're compatible with our existing neighbors. Another criteria, the proposed PUD will not adversely impact the provision of public services. We think that we've covered that through and gotten acknowledged from that, from the referral process, both to the Sheriff's Department, Road and Bridge, as well as I mentioned, our work with the City of Aurora and their input in terms of water. And then the proposed PUD will not have any adverse environmental impacts. I think that what we have looked at here in terms of minimizing our grading, staying out of excessive slopes, keeping that open space tract that is in that, I'm sorry, Deanna, can you go back to the criteria slide? Kind of going back into the open space tract, maintaining that as natural, and the only impact in that area are just trails, basically, that we're going to be looking at, both for pedestrian and equestrian types of uses. The proposed PUD will not create any unreasonable traffic congestion or burden to the existing road system. I think this has also been brought up by Sandra. Two things that I want to point out on that. When we first started our community information meeting back in July, one of the top issues that came up in that conversation was the intersection of County Line Road and Elbert. And it is still very dangerous. It's a two-lane rural section of roadway, 2 lanes and 2 lanes. But if you were out there back then, and if you haven't been out there now, it's a 4-way stop sign. Before it was just a two-stop intersection. After many deaths, unfortunately, after many, many deaths. And so working with, we've had a lot of conversations with the fire chief at Rattlesnake, in terms of what we could do at least to help participate in that. It wasn't initially by our efforts that a 4-way stop sign was put there, but it was coincidental to our community information meeting. Not taking credit for it, but I'm glad to see that. And it's, and it was right on the heels of a very tragic accident too, by the way, which was devastating. So the other thing I wanted to mention on the traffic issue too, we are, as part of this outreach to Douglas County, because they're also part of the Delbert Road corridor in that area of County Line Road to the west. We've also made an obligation, which you'll see, I think it's one of the conditions, that we have committed to funding an improvement on that part of County Line leading up to that intersection on Delbert Road. So in addition to what you'll see in future iterations of this, and I think you might have had this conversation with some other projects in the past, a lot of the specific improvements, like to the intersection of Delbert Road and County Line Road, will happen and be committed to at the subdivision process when we start engineering that particular part of the development. But right now, our commitment, at least up front on the zoning side, on this PUD side, is $100,000 to help mitigate some of the problems on County Line Road leading up to this intersection from the Douglas County side. And then lastly, the proposed PUD will not otherwise be detrimental to the health, safety, welfare of the present and future residents of Elbert County. We think that we are, when we'll continue to be good neighbors and hopefully work with our neighbors and you all at the county to make this a better place for Elbert County. So I think with that, we'll just be open for questions and answers from you folks. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have to interrupt really quick because the Zoom phone went down, so we're going to have to dial them back in so they can hear us online, the few people that have joined us there. So I'm going to add them back in real quick.
Okay, Danny, should we take a break then at this point?
Let's take a 5-minute break, yeah.
Okay. All right.
I'm sorry, if I can indulge you, one of the things that I did have tonight are some written testimony from some of our neighbors that I could add. These were emails that were sent to the Board of County Commissioners. We have copies of them, and I can hand those out to you before the recess, if that's okay with you.
We really don't accept them. However, what I would recommend is that you give them CDS, and then they will be put in the packet, okay, for the commissioners to see.
Okay. Now,
Okay,
the reason this was
to
unique.
bring them up here,
I
it
understand.
kinda,
I understand completely.
yeah.
This was unique because it was already sent to the Board of County Commissioners, but I don't think it was included.
It was, and it never got sent back and included in the packet.
Yeah,
So
so
if you
I'll let the
could
staff.
give that to them, and then they will be sure it gets in the packet for the board.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and at this point, we'll take a 5-minute break until they get the people online.
Would the county commissioners please make sure their microphones are turned off, please?
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound. Enter your participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise, just press pound to continue. Please enter the meeting password followed by pound. After the tone, please record your name. When you have finished recording, press pound. You are in the meeting now. There are 7 participants in the meeting. You are muted. You can mute or unmute yourself by pressing *6. You are unmuted.
All right, sorry folks online, we should have you back up. I don't know why you got booted out there for a minute, but we just had a couple-minute break and we'll be back on in a second.
Okay, tell me when you're ready. I'll get us, we got everybody back? Okay. Yeah, Eric's here.
Chair, we're ready to begin.
Okay, let's get started where we ended. We were at public comment. We had just finished the applicant's presentation. So at this point in time, if we could get, we could have public comment. And what I would ask is that when you step up to the mic, please give your name, address, and please, let's try to keep the comments to about 3 minutes. Okay, we've got a timer up there, so see if we can do that. So, do we have? No public comment? Okay. There was an individual who had made, I actually don't see him. Okay, so at this point, since we'll close public comment, now we will go around the table with questions. Go ahead. Mike.
I had a quick question on the traffic study. Since we finished up with that, we'll start with that real quick. On page 20, it said that the county, you're recommending that the county staff continue to monitor the intersection, and then as development occurs, determine when installation of the improvements would be most appropriate. How do you envision the county staff monitoring that and making those suggestions?
Good evening. My name is Mike Rocha. I'm with SM Rocha LLC. We're traffic engineering consultants located at 8700 Turnpike Drive, Suite 240, Westminster, Colorado. So if I can look back at the traffic study, and you had mentioned page 20?
Correct.
Okay. And then let's see, so I just want to make sure that I answer this correctly.
Very last paragraph,
okay.
Last couple sentences of that paragraph there.
Okay. So what this is referring to is looking at the potential for traffic signal control at County Line and Elbert. And so this is a long-term look at the option of signalization of that intersection. And so what we do typically is we will have the governing jurisdiction. It's their responsibility to monitor the intersection in terms of there's certain conditions that are to be in place before you can actually install a traffic signal. And they're referred to as warrants. There's nine of those conditions, 3 of which are based on traffic volume. There's accident history. There's several different other conditions. What we are anticipating in the future is that the intersection will be converted from the 4-way stop that's there now to an actual traffic signal. But there are certain steps that need to be done before the implementation of that signal can be done, and that is through typical everyday monitoring of the intersection through either the county, the governing county, or governing municipality. So in this particular case, it's going to be a coordinated effort between Elbert, Douglas, and City of Aurora.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, with Aurora is currently the municipality that is governing that intersection, and so they will be taking on that responsibility of monitoring.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Another question is, the applicant is not the developer or the builder, and this is a resale, potential resale. do you guys have preferred builders that you have in mind, already selected, or how does that process work?
Thanks for the question. Dan Sheldon again. Yes, we have a number of builders that we work with, predominantly the major builders in the metro area. Most of them are national builders. Some of them are local builders, depending on where we end up developing. But in this case, we are in discussions right now with a home builder in particular, one single builder for the entire project. I can't disclose who that builder is at this time. If we get to the point where it's become public and we have a deal and they're willing to make it public, then I can disclose that. But most of our projects that we do, the builder does not want to get disclosed for a variety of reasons, corporate reasons, I guess, until much closer to the time that they're actually building houses. But to further answer your question, our role, we have a little niche in the business, I would say. We buy land, identify land, we buy it, and then we entitle it. We do the annexation and zoning and the platting and the IGAs and the sewer agreements and what have you. And once we get that done, what we call platted or paper platted lots, we go out and market that subdivision plat. It's a piece of paper, basically a rolled up plan set. Anymore, it's not even a rolled up plan set, it's on a thumb drive, right? But we market that to the home building community. Sometimes my company will put in the infrastructure, and we would be considered a developer in that instance. But many times, and more recently than not, we are just selling what I call paper lots.
Okay. Okay. Last question was in regards to the water. I think it's great that Aurora is taking on that responsibility and you're able to tie into their water system and sewer system. But is there anything that says that any water rights that are underneath the property now can't be used for another project or an adjacent project?
No, that's a good question. So part of the intergovernmental agreement that's in your packet, one of the requirements of us and the current landowner, I have not closed on the property yet. That's to occur here fairly soon. But the current landowner has 300-ish acre feet, I don't remember what the exact number is, of water under the property. And they, as an agreement with the city of Aurora, they have agreed to, the current underlying landowner has agreed to give their groundwater, and this is very typical how it would occur, they give their groundwater to the city in return for municipal service of their water system.
That's all I had, Danny. There you go.
My other question was, Guy, we have to have them so loud. I'm still concerned about this traffic. It's a big thing for me. And if you have, I've worked with IGAs a lot. Is there, we don't want this property annexed. He touched on it, but are there any perimeters or things that can be set up to prevent that from happening? I mean, Aurora's doing the water, now you're saying that they're going to do the infrastructure. Are they going to want to annex that property?
No, Aurora does not have any interest in annexing this property. And we are not annexing the property into Aurora. Is that the question? Mm-hmm. Yeah. If that's what you're worried about, I can assure you that that is not part of the plan. It's not going to happen.
Okay. Well, that's a good thing then. Thank you.
So, quick question, because I've heard, quite a few comments about that particular intersection and how dangerous it is. Are there any, besides the studies that will occur over time, as the lots are sold and built upon and residents start to occupy, are there any interim solutions that, would be potentially addressed or looked at to help, minimize the danger of that intersection?
Mike, maybe let me take a quick shot at it, and then I'll let you jump in if needed. I think the interim condition is just got built over the last few weeks. During the month of November, the two-way stop condition got changed to a four-way, all blinking stop condition.
Okay.
That is according to Mike Rocha, my traffic engineer, who got the information from the city of Aurora, who was the lead again. They're the lead on that intersection. That is their interim condition.
Right.
Until the signal warrants have been met.
Okay, all right, very good. And the secondary question was regarding the water rights, and was the property owner going to relinquish those water rights? Okay.
Thanks.
Man,
Yeah, just a couple of things. One of the conditions, Danny, that the IGA should be signed, it should be must be signed, okay? But it has been, okay, because it's included in our packet.
mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
And one thing that's included in there is the transfer of the water rights to the city of Aurora.
Yes, sir.
And that was the question I had, is that, what's the guarantee that they're not going to use them, the rights?
What's the guarantee that the city of Aurora will not use those water rights? There is no guarantee. They have a policy that talks about the water rights that they get in exchange for municipal service are to only be used in the event of an extreme drought, and that's a defined term in their Aurora Water Code. They haven't had an extreme drought condition for 21 or 22 years now, and that's something that says something considering how dry it's really been.
My understanding that they got more water than they'll ever use.
That's my understanding as well.
Well, that was a concern to begin with, was that whoever presented it said, well, you know, the people in the county of Elbert don't need to worry about water being used, but it's been given away, so you can't really say that it may not be.
That's true.
So, because it could be, but I understand that there's a lot of conditions in there before they could use it.
Yeah, Planning Commissioner Sands, I'd like to also, if this is maybe an appropriate time, I'd like to throw out the idea of maybe tweaking that language in your staff's conditions, because I agree with you, it's a little, it doesn't read exactly the way it's supposed to, considering our IGA with Aurora has already been executed.
Exactly.
So I think before we get to the point where we're making a motion, or you're making a motion, we may want to craft up a bit better, more clear and concise language and confirm with Ms. Hoffman, who's called in on this, that it works for her, and I think that would hopefully benefit us all if we had that condition correct. Maybe if I could ask maybe my team to maybe work on that a little bit while we're finishing up Q&A here. Okay.
Should doesn't cut it for me.
Okay.
All right. Dwayne?
My peers have answered a lot of the other questions, but I had one with respects to the development in the design or development guide standards. It talks about lighting, and the lighting is most often referred as diffused lighting, in line with some of our conservation and dark skies initiatives. I wonder if there could be or should be language in the design guide standards that highlights that dark skies, or if there's changes that could be made that are more modern with along with what you've already been doing.
Yeah, that's our goal. I appreciate that comment. Our goal is to as best we can meet the county's dark skies objectives.
Yes, sir.
And as part of that, I think we have we call out in our PD or PUD a very limited use of streetlights. We have some, but only at key intersections, really as a safety precaution more than anything. We're certainly not trying to light up this part of the county. We're not trying to draw attention in any way. Yes, we are trying to meet that objective. If there's a specific suggestion that you have, some language that we could add into it, I'm happy to try to answer it right here from the podium if we can add it in. I don't have the specific code nor your dark skies language in front of me. I think we've addressed, I do think that we've addressed that. Mark, are you able to speak to that a little bit?
I searched through the document, I couldn't find anything referencing dark skies initiatives or anything like that, but that doesn't mean it's not there in other form.
So it's not specifically referenced as a dark sky initiative, because that does have some very specific meanings. But what we would be including in that are those, as you had pointed out, it's the downward, it's basically the same kind of infrastructure that would be required for those dark sky systems. One other note that Dan just touched on too that I wanted to bring up is that these roads are going to be part of the district's roads. They're not county roads, so we have our own standards, and part of that is to keep the proliferation of a lot of lighting on those at a minimal standard. The other thing too is that like a lot of these projects that you'll see, have seen, they're design standards too, design guidelines that are associated with the covenants that would be coming down as well. And,
actually goes vertical.
And frankly, in my opinion, those are better suited in those standards than they are in zoning, because what happens in zoning, and it's not in deference to your staff, but once it's a zoning document, then it's up to you to enforce it, the county to enforce it. If it's a development standard or a design guideline within the covenants, then the Metro District monitors it. So that's why we decided to stay silent on the dark sky initiative per se.
Good? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Couple questions. Open space requirements, and this is a question as per you put a lot of subdivisions up there. I just have a question as per other subdivision, other jurisdictions, everything else. What are your open space requirements in other counties and jurisdictions?
They range.
Can you give me just a...
Yeah, they range from anywhere from 20% to 35%.
Okay, so I kind of wanted to find that out because we're requiring by code, I believe, close to 50% open space.
More than 50.
More than 50. Okay. Is there any other jurisdiction around that requires that? That you've dealt with in this metro area?
No, sir. Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. That's one thing I wanted to know. Then to align with the new code, you started this in 2007. It was, that was under the old code, because I think we finished the updating the code in 2018. I think that was when, and so were you mandated to bring this subdivision in, bring this PUD in under the new code?
I think that's probably the right way you could say it.
Okay.
We could not continue processing it under the old PUD. It had old antiquated standards that didn't speak to your new standards. They didn't talk to each other.
Okay, and I'm asking that for another reason, because I want to see if we do this, if we did this in this development, I want to see this occur in future developments. Okay, so we can't bring them in under the old code. That was the question.
Yeah.
Okay, with that.
Sorry, I was trying to determine if this should come through the discussion on the metro districts or not, but stormwater testing, so as you saw on your topo map, there's some existing drainage basins that are part of your open space, but also part off your property and to the neighbor to the south of you. And is there any requirement and budgeting in your, I couldn't find anything, in your district plan for testing? And there may be some state level stuff, but if I don't see a budget for it, I don't know if that's really taken care of. Am I making sense on?
I think so.
Water quality.
I can tell you that we have an obligation to process all of our permitting for stormwater discharge through CDPHE, Colorado Department of Public Health and environment. And we would certainly, as part of our design, which we have started now, the actual engineering is starting to get underway right now, and we're setting up schedules with your staff right now for our preliminary engineering and our preliminary plat neighborhood meetings and things like that. We would certainly be processing any and all applications necessary by your Elbert County Code and any state code, including CDPHE, processing any of those for stormwater or any other water, sewer, utility, so on and so forth.
Isn't there a requirement also on the Corps of Engineers or something like that?
We might need to go in front of the Corps if it's determined that we have a certain amount of wetlands in the property that we have to either get in and disturb, which we're trying to not to. We do think we have a few little pockets of wetlands, and we really are trying hard with the change in our plan with removing all those lots on the south. We are staying out of wetlands and 100-year floodplain now as a result of that. So we're pleased with the dialogue that we've had with the community now, because it's really been their desire to see those lots around the perimeter go away. And as a result, it's got some benefit to us and to the community as well, because we're going to have less impact on the environment.
Hey, all right, at this point, we've got the service plan to go through. So, vote, we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that
PD 2023.
Yep. Right there. There he goes.
No, that we recommend to the county commissioners that they approve.
Okay, Van,
2023
Dash
2004.
3.
I may ask that we hold a minute. Van, hold on a second. You wanted to amend the condition
Yes.
because it isn't correctly stated?
I believe that's correct, and
Okay.
I think your staff would likely agree it's not worded very well.
That is
Sandra.
something we can amend that condition here, because we're not creating code or doing anything like that. But if something is inappropriate, we can make an amendment, recommend an amendment to the, so can you bring that up?
Yes, Sandra, can you bring up the condition and speak to that a little bit, what you put on condition number 2?
Oh, I think
Let me
you've
get
got,
it pulled up here. I'm going to get it larger so you guys can see it, if I can.
Danny, you need to change out.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Van, hang on to that number.
See if this works.
Okay.
All right, can you see the screen? I think, wait a second, share. Can you see the language there that's subject to the following conditions?
Yeah, we can now.
Zoom in a little bit,
Okay, so you want me to zoom in more?
just a little.
If I can get this thing to work. Okay, here, 1 second. Let me do more, just to.
It's condition 2.
Does that help, or do you want it
Yes.
bigger?
Right on. Thank you.
That's great, thank you.
All right.
So,
So the second one, definitely, yeah, that was some feedback we got from some other Elbert County staff, and so, but happy to modify the language in any manner you would like. And Mark Kiefer, I thought you mentioned something during that I thought I could hear was that they were going to try to draft a modified version of that condition. I don't know if you had done that or if anybody had that. I'm happy to modify. This is
So what
one
fits?
word should.
if you can give me 2 minutes up here, talk amongst yourselves, I will try to rewrite it, and then I'll either read it, and Sandra can opine to it if that pleases the
Dan,
board.
I think all we need to do is add the word must rather than should.
Well, no, but the IGA with City of Aurora, it's not with Aurora and Douglas County. The IGA that I have with water and
okay,
sewer,
yeah,
they
right.
want to complicate it and insert another
The
jurisdiction.
jurisdictions aren't correct in there, so we got to align with
So if you-
everything.
Can you give me 2 minutes?
Yes.
I'll write.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
This is how sausage is made. This is how sausage is made.
Don't just say that. I'm not eating that sausage.
Pardon me, commissioners, if we could turn your microphones off, please, for now. Thank you.
May I read it to you first, see if we can agree on this condition, and then if you can.
You read it, and we'll see what,
So what I have said here as a replacement condition for number 2 is, an IGA with the City of Aurora has been fully executed, and as a condition to the approval shall be that the perpetual maintenance of water and sewer infrastructure must be the responsibility of the City of Aurora once accepted at final inspection. So of this approval, yeah. Okay. An IGA with City of Aurora has been fully executed, and as a condition of this, I would change that to this approval. Whoever's typing, is Sandra typing?
Yeah, this
Okay.
approval.
Sandra, I would change the first line where it says a condition of the approval. Maybe it's this approval. I don't know, whatever, the or this, I don't know that matters, but condition of this approval shall be that the perpetual maintenance of water and sewer shall be, or must be is fine, I'm fine with that, must be the responsibility of the City of Aurora once accepted at final inspection, period.
okay,
Okay.
that makes sense. Is Sandra good with that?
And strike the balance of number 2.
Yes, Sandra, are you good with that?
Work, Michael? Yes. Okay.
I'm fine with that. If everyone else is, that sounds fine. So an IGA with the City of Aurora has been fully executed, and as a condition of this approval shall be, this doesn't make sense. As a condition of this approval, it shall be need to rephrase that.
Okay, all right.
Once you read it. So at the commission approval, perhaps you want to say the City of Aurora shall
Be the perpetual maintainer. Shall be the
thinking, and let me try to show you. So it has been fully executed as a condition of this approval. The City of Aurora shall be responsible for the perpetual maintenance of water and sewer once accepted.
Yeah, the lead must be responsible. There you go.
Does that, okay, so let me read through again and let me know if you disagree. An IGA with the City of Aurora has been fully executed, and as a condition of this approval, the City of Aurora shall be responsible for the perpetual maintenance of water and sewer once accepted at final inspection.
That's good.
Good with me.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're
Now
welcome.
then, your motion has to include the amended condition. Okay,
I'm saving, sorry. I get to stop it
no,
again.
thank you, Sandra.
I make a motion that we recommend to the Board of County Commissioners that they approved the filing number PD 2023-2003 with the change to condition number 2 that reads, an IGA with the City of Aurora has been fully executed, and as a condition of this approval, the City of Aurora shall be responsible for the perpetual maintenance of water and sewer once accepted at final inspection.
Good. Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay,
Who's the second? Roger?
Robert?
Robert.
Robert? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Unanimous? Do we need a? Okay. All right. Thank you. With that, on to our service plan. Pardon me?
And they say we can't get anything done around here.
The next one is our service plan. Anderson Analytics, correct? Yes. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm going to distribute some print copies to you as well.
Okay.
We don't have time to read this, you know that? Okay, or we'll be here till next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So my name is Graham Anderson. I'm the senior analyst with Anderson Analytics. We provide consulting services in public finance and applied economics for a number of local governmental entities, special districts, and private entities. We were engaged to, as we've done for this board, for several other applications to review the financial plan and the service plan. Luckily, I should be able to go through this a little bit quicker since there's been so much covered so far. So if you want to go on to the next slide. Back in 2004, the Sterling Crossing Metro District, along with the Sterling Crossing Commercial Metro District, were formed. These are amended and restated service plans, so it's basically striking the previous one and replacing it. So the Sterling Crossing Metro District is the residential one. I've just indicated that there. The commercial one is the commercial one. First thing, proposed to rename Aurora Metro District. It took me about 3 weeks to realize what Aurora means, Elbert and Aurora. But in any case, the original service plan debt limit was aggregate for both districts of $10 million. So if the commercial district issued, it would count towards that. It was $10 million for both combined. The proposed service plans essentially put a fence between the debt authorizations for the two districts. So for the residential district, Aurora Metropolitan District, the proposed service plan debt limit is $37.355 million. As indicated before, the original service plan anticipated 113 single-family homes. The proposed service plan anticipates 308 single-family homes. And for the residential district, the original public improvement cost estimate was about $4.8 million. The proposed and really updated cost estimate is $31.2 million. Now, you'll note that the service plan debt limit is higher than the public improvement cost estimate, but I wanted to note that there are cost of issuance associated with municipal bonds, reserve fund requirements, capitalized interest. So the financial plan projects net proceeds about $27.8 million towards that $31.2 million in public improvement costs. Next. The original debt mill levy cap or authorization in the original service plans was 60 mills at what was then the assessment rates of 7.96%. I think 2004 was the first year of the 7.96%. If you were to adjust 60 mills today to 6.7 assessment rate or whatnot, you'd start to get into 70s in terms of that mill levy. So the first draft of this proposed service plan that we saw proposed that the debt mill that the debt mill levy cap would be reduced to 50 mills at 7.96%. And so the language got updated to reflect the 7.15 and the 29%, which are technically the permanent assessment rates in our statutes right now. So that's how you get to 55.664 mills for residential. Just to illustrate again, this is an adjustable debt mill levy cap, adjustable for changes in the methods of calculating assessed value or assessment rates. So to get to the 6.7% assessment rate that we're looking at this year, you multiply it by 7.15, divide by 6.7, and that would be 58.875 mills. Now, these proposed service plans do add a 40-year maximum debt levy imposition term. So that means the first year the district or either district respectively imposes the debt levy, you have a 40-year clock. At the end of that 40-year clock, you can't impose the debt levy anymore, except that if it is associated with refunding of existing debt and it demonstrates net present value savings, you'd still have to, or the district would still have to go to the Board of County Commissioners and get it approved. I just wanted to give a little bit of the more technicalese there on that. If you go to the next one. Both the original and the proposed service plans authorize the debt levy to be limited, convertible to unlimited. I explained this a little bit about a month ago, but that means that the debt levy may be adjusted higher if necessary to make required bond payments once the outstanding bond total is less than 50% of the district's total assessed value. So in practice, what that means is that it could, really the bonds could only be convertible to unlimited in the latter years of the bond term, basically so you can't play tricks with it. That's kind of a short explanation. In the financial plan, that would be year 32 plus in terms of those projections. And that is a common provision in many Metro District service plans in Elbert County that have been approved. Now, switching gears to the operations and maintenance levy, there is no effective change in the operations and maintenance levy authorization, and it is an unlimited levy, so there's no explicit mill levy cap. As a result, the service plan, the financial plans do include an anticipated operations and maintenance budget for the districts. It's actually, the way it's presented is both districts combined, about $430,000 annual budget at build out. And so if you do the math based off of the assessed value projections in the financial plan, that works out to be about 17.9 mils, just to put that order of magnitude. Now, of course, there can and perhaps would be some plus or minus there. Next. Now, in that context, the applicant has indicated that no HOA is anticipated, so there would be no HOA fee is anticipated. The Metro Districts would be anticipated to provide CC&R and design review services per the statute, as you've seen with some other Metro Districts in Elbert County. The proposed service plan also adds an abatement levy, mill levy authorization. I covered that with you about a month ago. An abatement occurs when property taxes are refunded to a property owner. Usually that's a result of a property value appeal. It can go backwards as well as forwards, or sometimes clerical errors. And so every governmental entity gets a report from the assessor and treasurer reporting what the amount abated is every year, and a multitude of local governments are authorized to impose an abatement levy to basically offset that. Elbert County has an abatement levy, I think it's 0.006 mils or something like that. If you look at your property tax bill, oftentimes the abatement levy for the school district is broken out. It's usually about 0.1, 0.2 mils. The second kind of rather difficult thing to explain, but I attempted last month. These proposed service plans also add a special assessment provision with prior written consent of the county. Special assessments may be imposed on developer-owned property only to help finance public improvements via special improvement district. Now, that special assessment has to be fully paid off and cleared before it can be sold to a homeowner or commercial tenants, et cetera, et cetera. And the reason for that does feel like, or can seem like, and it almost is, taking money out of one pocket into another pocket and out of the other pocket, but it's essentially a mechanism to allow the developer or property owner to access additional early stage capital at tax exempt rates. So that can only be used for public improvements, and if there is a gap there between additional public improvement costs versus what's funded by the general obligation bonds, this is actually a rather clever and unique way to help bridge the gap. Those improvements would have to be funded privately, otherwise it would be at much higher interest rates, plus usually the expected return on equity as well. Next. We've discussed this quite a bit. I guess I'll give you my non-legal, non-attorney quick read of the extraterritorial water and sanitary sewer IGA. So the Elora districts will construct and transfer the water and sanitation improvements to the city of Aurora. The city of Aurora Water will own and operate those improvements and will provide ongoing water and sewer service to the Elora community, extraterritorial because it's outside of the boundaries of the city of Aurora. The current property owner will convey its crown water rights to the city of Aurora. That's in Exhibit B of the IGA. The IGA is Exhibit G of the proposed service plan. The determined maximum service connection will be 308 single-family homes and 25,000 square feet GLA of commercial uses. So that's written into the IGA. And actually, I think I should note this. The Elora property owners will be, of course, Aurora Water customers, and so they will be required to comply with Aurora City Code and Aurora Water and rules and regulations, for example, in terms of its water conservation code, as well as in terms of its landscaping regulations, for example, which are rather stringent, as I understand, in the city of Aurora. Next. I'm switching here, executive summary here, to the commercial metro district. Originally Sterling Crossing Commercial Metro District, renamed to Elora Commercial Metro District. Again, the original service plan debt limits aggregate for both districts were $10 million. Now, the proposed service plan debt limit for the Elora Commercial Metro District is only $2.325 million, and that's fenced off, that's separate from the residential district. The original service plan, the original financial plan, anticipated 200,000 square feet of office development, so it was a very different concept back in 2004, although it kind of makes sense as that was an era of corporate, office headquarters, et cetera, and have some nice housing with it. But the proposed service plan anticipates, at least as it's shown in the financial plan, 21,000 square feet of commercial uses. Conceptually, a gas station, a QSR restaurant, a daycare, a bank. Previously, there have been there were discussions here about Douglas County schools, et cetera. So that could be a potential there. This is really kind of a conceptual development plan that's included in the commercial Metro District service plans. And again, under the IGA, it's maximum of 25,000 square feet GLA of commercial. The original public improvement cost estimate was about $2.4 million, and that's been updated to about $3 million here. Next. No effective change in the debt levy or operations and maintenance levy authorizations from the original. The original debt mill levy cap was 50 mills. It was 29% non-residential assessment rate in 2004. It was 29% until last year, and it's temporarily 27.9% this year. Again, it's limited, convertible to unlimited, and if you adjust that to the 27.9% non-residential assessment rate, for example, that's about 51.97 mils. The operations and maintenance mill levy is also unlimited here, and that 17.873 mil estimate is just a reiteration of what I said before. But I do want to note that in some ways for the commercial district, its operations and maintenance levy is a little bit like a CAM fee for essentially the common public improvements within the commercial metropolitan district. Next. Again, adds 40-year maximum debt levy imposition term, also adds abatement levy, also adds the special assessment authorization, and it's also a party to the Aurora Water and Sanitary Sewer IGA. Next. So this is the anticipated operations and maintenance budget that's shown as an exhibit in the proposed service plans and financial plans. I'll just step you through this briefly. Again, this is what was presented were the costs for the two districts combined. Those are two different districts, so their budgets could be different. But these are the anticipated amounts combined, about $90,000 for admin costs. Since 2004, annual admin costs for these districts have been about $30,000 to $40,000 roughly, so that's a pretty good order of magnitude estimate for admin. Maintenance costs includes parks and rec and open space, other outdoor improvement, maintenance, and snow plowing and detention ponds. Those would probably be the ones that would stand out to me as the cost that could be a bit more variable there, particularly snow plowing. And then finally, the budget properly sets aside capital reserves, mainly for the repaving and maintenance of the roadways within the district. You'll see it anticipates an 8-year frequency for the structural mill and a 20-year frequency for the concrete pan rehab. So $434,000 at build-out equates to about 17.9 mils, and hopefully that gives you an idea of kind of what the plus or minus could be there. You know, really the budgetary risks are unexpected capital costs there. Special districts do and can get good professional support for budgeting and fiscal management, but it can also be potentially an exercise in local democracy as well. That being said, it is if you live there, it's the improvements, it's the beautification in your own community, so you have a vested interest in that as well. Next. So taking that O&M mill levy estimate, I'll highlight the existing taxing entities first: Elbert County, Douglas County Schools, the County Library District, and Rattlesnake Fire. I believe this is outside of the boundaries of Elizabeth Park and Rec, so the districts would be responsible for owning and maintaining the park and rec improvements. And the anticipated bond levy, I presented these at tax year 2022 residential rates, about 75 mils with the bond at the maximum and that anticipated O&M. So bottom line, that puts you just under 159 mils, and again, no anticipated HOA fee. Next. So just under 159 mils kind of slots you in there over in the lower left-hand corner of what's being levied, has been approved in Independence. It's just about the same as what you saw with EC West last month. Again, there could be some plus or minus on the O&M mill levy, but overall it appears that the proposed or anticipated mill levy is is fairly well within established precedent for other metro districts in Elbert County. Next. I've summarized here an example anticipated residential property tax bill. The average home market value in the financial plan is almost $875,000. I've presented this for tax year 22, so what one would have paid for this year, the 6.95% assessment rate. Existing entities would be about $5,000. The anticipated or proposed for Lower Metro District, if it's 75 mills with the bond and the O&M, that would be another $4,600. So bottom line, anticipated property tax about $9,500 to $10,000 a year. At a price point like this, you know, it's really kind of about the market study as to what the tolerable mill levy will be, because effectively when you raise the property tax, you're increasing the minimum household income required to be able to afford that home. And so from the market analysis perspective, if you have a higher mill levy, that kind of constricts the potential home buying market. Now, I will note, I'll note this a little bit later as well, these levies, comparable levies, in fact, some cases higher levies across the border in the city of Aurora, homes are selling at these prices with these types of mill levies at or greater than that. Next. These are the existing commercial metro districts in Elbert County, the mill levies. If you go to the next one, I won't belabor the point here because this is a bit more conceptual, but this would be an example anticipated commercial property tax bill on a per square foot basis. So existing entities about $7.25 at a market value of about $300 per square foot, which is the average market value that's shown in the conceptual development plan and the financial plan. Next. So I'm going to start peeling away the onion. That was kind of more of my executive summary here, so I'm going to get a little bit more technical, but also try to go fast. Really, the core of our review is rooted in one of the statutory and the county subdivision requirements that satisfactory evidence be shown that the area to be included in the proposed district has or will have the financial ability to discharge the proposed indebtedness on a reasonable basis. So really what I'm looking at for are their reasonable assumptions in the financial plan, because the financial plan is inherently a financial projection. Do those assumptions represent a reasonable expectation of current and future market conditions? I'm going to step through first the residential district. You've probably seen better renderings than that. I just excerpted that from the some of the service plan exhibits. I highlighted the anticipated commercial district up there at the northwest corner. Go to the next one. This is the estimated public improvement cost total, engineering cost estimates for the residential district, the Lower Metropolitan District. Anticipated about $15 million in direct costs for on-site improvements, another $5 million for off-site roadway improvements there, County Line Road, some off-site sanitary and Elbert Road improvements. Then properly, the engineering cost estimate includes contingency and other soft costs. So bottom line, total public improvement cost anticipated in the service plan about $31.2 million. I should note that this is just for the residential district only. The commercial district's public improvement cost is separate and shown later. I'm not going to, again, belabor the sources and uses table. The sources and uses table get more complicated when you have a refunding and new money structure, as we do here. But where I have that line there, that's the net proceeds for eligible costs from the bonds issued in the financial plan. The anticipated net proceeds for eligible public improvement cost is about $27.8 million. So compare that $27.8 million to the $31.2 million that you saw on the previous slide. Oh, one thing I should highlight here as well, this is a little bit of a different definition than we've seen before, but under the service plan language, the costs of issuance and reserve fund requirements on the refunding a new money series, so the one on the right, cost of issuance associated with that do count towards the debt limit. So it's not just the net new money proceeds from the refunding of new money, but it also includes the cost of issuance. So there really is some incentive there for the district and the underwriter to basically maximize proceeds from the debt that they issue. And I've summarized that here on this table. The proposed service plan debt limit is $37.355 million, and the proposed financial plan shows a total of $37.355 million, counting towards that debt limit. Comprised $20.7 million par amount from the first bond issuance, and then the new money proceeds and the cost of issuance from the refunding a new money series in 10 years later. This is the anticipated development plan that's shown in the financial plan. Again, this really this is one of the elements that really underpins the financial plan and the projected financing capacity, just inherently, because that is the property tax base there. A total of 308 units anticipated. That's actually the maximum single-family count under the Aurora IGA. The anticipated build-out is about 7 years, 7-year build-out period. And according to the applicant, this build-out schedule, as well as those assumed market values, are per a feasibility study prepared for the project. The assumed market values, I honestly did do a double take on this first, but looking at listings and transaction prices and the Arapahoe County and Douglas County assessors' valuations in that market, the assumed market values do appear consistent with other similar product in that market, and also with comparable or even higher mill levy loads. Next. This is probably the third or fourth time I've covered this with you guys before, but the proposed financial plan anticipates after construction 6% biennial inflation in residential property values. In the municipal bond world, that is kind of the more aggressive of the two typical assumptions up until 2019. Oftentimes that was underwritten with just 2% biennial, but we've had very strong markets and issuances that have occurred at 6% biennial. But if you go to the next slide, 6% biennial equates to average annual appreciation in the upper left-hand corner of just under 3%. Sometimes these are called 3% bonds. Well, again, you've seen this graph before, but this is the historical home value appreciation in Elbert County, and if you look back at the 10-year, 20-year, 30-year, and 40-year, average annual appreciation, all of those exceed 3%. Now, of course, really the risk to bondholders risk to bondholders as well as from the district's point of view as well are those red lines when you do have downturns, but over a long period of time, at least historically, market values have exceeded 6% biennial. So this is the first bond issuance that's shown in the financial plans for the residential district. The anticipated issuance date, at least as shown, is December in 2024. That would be about a year prior to the first home delivery in 2025, and that build-out schedule before. Anticipated bond issuance of 20.7 million. When you take out the issuance costs, capitalized interest, surplus fund deposit, et cetera, that equates to about 14.2, 14.3 million. 30-year bonds, I don't know if I've ever explicitly explained this before, but why we have a refunding and new money structure here when we have an anticipated 40-year bonding term is that it's extremely rare for municipal bonds to be issued with a term longer than 30 years. There's just really not a market for it. Over the past 40 years, the few times that there have been attempts at it, you just kind of find the bond yield curves gets really goofy after 30 years. And so that's really the underlying reason why we have these more complicated refunding and new money structures for a 40-year debt period, which is essentially what's being authorized under these service plans. Next. These are the assumed financing parameters, bond parameters. These are the parameters that we look at quite closely. This first bond series issued about a year prior to first delivery of homes assumes a 6% annual coupon rate or interest rate on the bonds, and it's also sized at 1.0 times coverage. Also includes 36 months of capitalized interest and as well a couple of scheduled surplus fund drawdowns from years 4 to 7. Really, in the real world, 7 years is pretty well kind of the maximum build out that you can get for a real world bond structure here. The issue is when a district is building out, you still need to be making the interest payments on those bonds, and so that's why you have 36 months of capitalized interest here, for example. Also a surplus fund there if it needs to be used. The bonds shown in the financial plan, if they are not refunded, although they're anticipated to be refunded 10 years after issuance, they would be fully discharged with just over $1 million surplus fund balance. So these are my observations on these key financing parameters. The assumed coupon rate, 6% at 1.0 times coverage, is that's kind of the typical financial plan assumption that we'd see in service plans prior to 2020. Obviously, interest rates sharply fell to historic lows in 2020 to 2022, so we started seeing some more aggressive coupon rate assumptions during that period. 6% is kind of a throwback, and I really mean that in a positive way in terms of it being a reasonable assumption. Historically, just a broad generalization, that would reflect kind of the better end of a normal to healthy special district bond market. For example, in 2018 and 2019, we did see some lower coupon rates than that on several issuances, so it's not at one far extreme. It's kind of positive, optimistic, realistic, at least in our view. Now in 2023, there's been a challenging bond market. Similar coupon rates have ranged rather widely from the 6s all the way up to the 8s. But I do want to comment that recent special district bond issuances, we've been seeing underwriters in Colorado achieve some pretty impressive coupon rates on similar projects, including issuances before construction has started. Really within the context of this broader, more challenging interest rate environment. Really my overall takeaway from that is that it's indicative that investors, bond investors, muni bond investors, do have confidence in the Colorado housing market. And there have been, there's been less issuance volume than we saw in 2021 and 2020. But I do believe that issuance volume this year exceeds what we saw in 2017, maybe even in 2018. So things are chugging along pretty nicely. This is the refunding and new money component. You've seen this before, so I won't belabor the point too much, but that would yield net proceeds for eligible costs of another about $13.5 million. And again, the reserve fund requirements and any issuance costs would count towards that service plan debt limit. And this refunding and new money series effectively extends the debt levy term to 40 years. Next. It assumes a 4% annual coupon rate. It assumes those bonds are investment grade rated bonds. 30 years again, issuance after full build out backed by stabilized revenue stream. That's why it would potentially, at least today, most likely would be rated investment grade. And it's sized with, again, the 50 equivalent mills and 6% biennial inflation. Next. My comments on these, assume coupon rate 4% and 1.0 times is generally consistent with these financial plans for at least the past decade, even perhaps longer than the past decade. Similar coupon rates, public offering for these types of refunding and improvement bonds have generally ranged from 4 to sometimes into the 5s. Occasionally they've dipped into the 3s in particularly strong markets, but going back to my graph earlier, long-term historical rates of property value appreciation have generally exceeded the assumptions in the financial plan, and so making kind of the coupon rate floor assumption here at 1.0 times coverage, it's a fairly common assumption out there, and that's kind of the justification for it. My one little nitpick would be that investment grade rated refunding bonds like this typically would not require as large of a debt service reserve to be funded out of the bond proceeds as shown here. For example, rated refunding bonds are sometimes issued with bond insurance. The municipal bond insurance market has really come back, and it's, well, overall it's been helpful to issuers in Colorado. Sometimes there are other sorts of guarantees. I just comment on that. I'm currently trying to negotiate a lower debt service reserve requirement on another refunding issue, so there is some give or take there. If that reserve refund requirement is lower, that just goes over to net proceeds for eligible costs. Next. I'm switching to the commercial district, and I'll try to plow through this because a lot of this is the same structure and assumptions. This map is excerpted from one of the service plan exhibits. Again, it's conceptual. Next. The estimated total public improvement cost for the commercial district is about $3 million. So on-site direct costs about $900,000, another $900,000 for off-site costs. Again, County Line Road and Elbert Road, some off-site sanitary there. As best as I can tell from these on-site costs, I probably should underline this, that these aren't really, quote, horizontal site improvements for the pads. So it's not like parking lots and things like that. It's roads in the water and sanitation improvements there mainly. Next. Again, our sources and uses table. So in the previous one, public improvement cost total of about $3 million. Now this financial plan, again, 40-year refunding the new money structure, shows net proceeds for eligible costs of only $1.3 million. Now, I will comment that in practice, in the real world, there would be more efforts to maximize proceeds from the bonds being issued here. So this is kind of on paper sizing in terms of demonstrating the financing capacity of the districts. Again, it's really only $1,000 off in terms of rounding there, but the proposed financial plan from the par amount of the 24 and from the 2034 refunding and new money amounts, 2.324 million towards the 2.325 million proposed service plan debt limit. Next. This is the development plan that's included in the commercial district's financial plan. 4 pads, conceptually a gas station convenience store, a QSR restaurant, a daycare, and a bank. Those assumed market values per square foot, I would comment, are consistent with what appears the Elbert County assessors valuing similar uses. In fact, and for example, with a bank, that bank use that may even be a little bit conservative there. But per the applicant, the commercial district's development plan is currently speculative. The marketing of the commercial development of the pads has not yet begun. And so inherently the development plan, again, does drive the financing capacity there. So there is some theoretical plus or minus there as well. But I would note that it's usually a lot more in the interest of a commercial district or of commercial developers not to over-leverage the district. There's a lot more commonality and interest in terms of developing a commercial district in terms of the debt that district does issue there. So that's an important consideration, at least in my view. Next. The proposed financial plan underwrites 2% biennial inflation in commercial property values. This is pretty much the standard underwriting parameter in the Colorado Special District market. Now, I did go back and do some math since last month because I commented that commercial property values historically have appreciated almost at the rate of single-family residential. Just to be more precise about that, over the past 30 years, from tax year 92 to tax year 2022, on average, among all properties statewide in Colorado, the market value of the average commercial property inflated or appreciated by 91% the rate of the average single-family residential home. That's from Colorado Division of Property Taxation data. So 2% in the bigger picture, or at least in the very big picture, is rather conservative. I would also comment on the side, unrelated, that over those past 30 years, the commercial assessment rate, of course, did not go down, unlike the residential rates. So if we go to the next slide, I would comment that commercial uses can be sensitive to the mill levy load. The proposed financial plan sizes the bonds from the maximum debt levy of 50 equivalent mills. Now, the commercial district is not required to levy all 50 of those debt mills. If they levy fewer debt mills, then really what would happen is fewer bonds would be issued there. Now, a separate commercial district does allow flexibility to set the tolerable mill levy load for the commercial uses, really for the overall feasibility of the commercial development. And also sometimes in practice in the municipal bond world, a commercial district's bonds may be sized from a lower debt levy, say they issue it from 20 or 25 mills, but the district would pledge the full 50 mills kind of as a backup there. And so on paper, but really in practice, that kind of serves as coverage in terms of the underwriting there. Finally, the proposed service plan does state that the district will collect a facility fee of $2 per square foot from the commercial builders at construction, and that helps generate revenues in the first really 2 years or during the construction period. Again, you've seen this over and over, so I can plow through this again. But the first one, 30 years, a bond par amount of $1.38 million would count towards the debt limit. At least on paper, sizing it with capitalized interest and the debt service reserve fund, that would be net proceeds of $731,000. The commercial district also assumes the same coupon rates and debt service coverage ratio parameters, 30 years unrated, et cetera. And if those are not refunded, they would be projected to be fully paid off at the end of the 30-year term with a little bit of a surplus fund balance there. I've covered all of my comments here on this. Actually, again, the capitalized interest there is really what eats the proceeds. In reality, you want to issue these bonds, the timing and other specific details in order to maximize the net proceeds, but that doesn't really have much impact really from the purposes of my analysis to see if it meets the proposed debt authorization amount. And then the refunding a new money series would be projected to yield another $600,000 there, and all of the issuance costs count towards it, and it all adds up. Next one also assumes 4% like the previous one, et cetera, et cetera. And in our view, those are again reasonable and consistent coupon rates for the commercial district. Really, if the commercial district would optimize its timing, which it most likely will. Perhaps coupon rates could even be a little bit better than if it's, for example, backed by partially or fully delivered development, if that kind of makes sense. I think I've come to the end of my presentation. I've got an appendix here, which I'm not going to present, but if you do want to, I guess it's not really that much of a condensation, but instead of a 40-page financial plan, it's a two-page summary table there for each of the bond series, if that's of interest to you. So thank you, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other presentation? Nope. Do you? I was just double checking. Okay, okay. There you go.
That work?
Yeah.
All right. I just want to be able to see the screen. All right. Well, good evening, Commissioners. Diane Miller with Miller Law, 1555 California Street, Denver, Colorado. And we are general counsel to the existing or old Sterling Crossing districts and the new Elora districts. Next slide, please. So tonight we have me, who's going to do a presentation for you. Shelby Noble from Piper Sandler, and those are the underwriters, is on the phone, I believe, still? No? They're listening. Okay, good. All right. And Don Sheldon, who you've already met with Miller United Real Estate. We want to talk first about the benefits of having metropolitan districts to support a development. As I think I've probably told you all before, districts don't initiate development, they just support it. And the way they support it first is by filling a void. There aren't other governments, that want to step up and build all these roads and water and sewer lines. And districts are able to do that on a development by development basis. Public improvement costs are reduced when you use a metropolitan district because districts have access to tax-exempt financing that neither the developer or a homeowner would have access to. Districts also provide for proportionate impact to the folks that are living within the district. We know in Colorado that the average homeowner moves every 7 years. So if you move into a community that has a special district, you're going to pay that special district mill levy for 7 years, and then you're going to move on, and you're not going to be required to pay that mill levy anymore. So for the 7 years you're there, you're contributing through your mill levy to the cost of bonds and to the cost of maintenance because you live there, you're part of the community. But once you leave, someone else is going to step into that role for you. So districts allow a proportionate impact to be paid rather than in other communities, if there is no district, the impact to the original homeowners is much higher than it would be without the district. The other thing that's most important to a lot of people is that development pays its own way, meaning the people within the development are going to pay for that public infrastructure cost and that maintenance cost. And it does not become an obligation of anyone outside the development, the county, your neighbors next door that aren't in the district. None of those people contribute to the cost of the development. Next slide. One of the things that we like to emphasize are the financial safeguards that are available or mandated in most instances for districts. Next slide, please. When bonds are issued, the bonds that Graham was just talking about, neither the district nor the developer have unfettered access to that money. The bonds are issued, and those proceeds go into a corporate trust department like at UMB Bank. For example, the Independence bonds in this community that have issued, those are being held by UMB Bank as the trustee for those funds. And the trustee is acting not just on behalf of the district, but on behalf of the bondholders. So they have an interest in making sure that they are acting fairly on both sides of that equation. Funds are only released to the district, excuse me, as public infrastructure is built and as an independent engineering firm comes in and certifies the cost. They review the contracts and the receipts and everything else, and then they go out and inspect the improvements and make sure that all the improvements that we're asking to be paid for have actually been completed. The district then creates a request to the trustee that details all this stuff that the engineer has done. And then the trustee can release the monies to the district. And then the district usually turns around and reimburses the developer because the district itself is not building these public improvements. The developer is building them and then turning around and asking the district to be reimbursed for them. When bonds are issued, there's a continuing disclosure report requirement so that every quarter the district has to provide financial information and information on how many building permits have been pulled and how many homes have been completed. That continuing disclosure report is posted on a website called the Municipal Market Access website, or EMA, and that is run by the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board. So anyone, it's a public website, anyone can go on, look at the quarterly disclosures, look at the bonds that have been issued, and get that information. Next slide, please. Under Colorado law, there are multiple additional safeguards that are put in place with regard to districts. The disclosure notice is now about 4 or 5 years old. Anytime a property is sold within a district, not like homeowner to homeowner, but from a developer, from a home builder to a new resident, there is a mandatory disclosure that is part of the whole closing packet that basically says there's a district, here's where you can get a copy of the service plans, here's how many bonds are anticipated to be issued, here's how many mills are expected to be imposed. The service plans are also something that are on file with the county clerk and recorder's office, And there is a requirement, both in the service plans but also under Colorado statute, to file an annual report with the county that essentially details all of the information that I was just talking about in the continuing disclosure report, what's been built, were bonds issued, all of those things have to be in the annual report that goes to the county. The Colorado Sunshine Laws have several requirements. All meetings are open meetings. It's no different than the Planning Commission or the Board of County Commissioners. All meetings are open to the public. We have to post on our website when those meetings occur, and anyone can join a meeting if they want to. Districts have regular elections every 2 years in May. That's of odd-numbered years. Elections are held to elect people to the board of the district. This year, a new statutory requirement was put in place for what are called annual meetings. Some people are calling them like town hall meetings. But it is an opportunity. It's not a regular business meeting of the district board. It's just a meeting where we present financial information and where people who live within the district have the opportunity to ask questions of the district and of the board about really anything that's going on within the community. All districts in Colorado are now required to have their own website. And these districts, I think currently are still under sterlingcrossingmd.com, but they'll be upgraded to the Elora name here shortly. On that website, we'll have notices of meetings, all the documents like the service plan and the budgets for the district will be there. Contact information, if you have a question, who do I call? That's up there. Debt information, mill levy information, and information on when the next election occurs and how many vacancies there are and how you can put your name in to be on the board if you're interested. Probably the biggest safeguard for districts is that they are controlled by the property owners. When we initially start a new development, the developer is a property owner, so they have the board of directors. But homeowners are eligible to be elected to the district board as soon as they purchase the property. And as I said, they have elections every other year so that they can become board members and participate in the governance of the district. The example we gave you, I think last month, was that the independence districts were organized in at the very beginning of 2018. 2 of those districts are already under homeowner control, the overlay district and district number 1. So it can happen very quickly. People do know about districts, and especially here in Elbert County, because I've had areas where people aren't interested in sitting on the board. But here in Elbert County, residents are very interested in participating in that and getting on the board of directors so that they're part of the governance structure. Next slide. So we have the Elora Metropolitan District, which was originally Sterling Crossing Residential, and then the commercial district, which was Sterling Crossing Commercial. The amended and restated service plan that we have proposed and provided to you updates the language in that service plan to the most current service plan model that we have worked with recently with your special district council at Butler Snow. It also updates the financial plan, the engineering costs and exhibits. Since 20 years down the road, they're obviously different. And I know you've had a lot of discussion about this, but these districts have entered into an IGA with the City of Aurora to provide water and sewer service to the districts. Next slide, please. These are metro districts, so they can provide streets, water, sewer, storm detention, drainage, parks and rec, trails, paths, all of landscaping, street landscaping, traffic and safety controls. And districts can do this both inside and outside their boundaries. In this instance, I know we have some off-site improvements to Delbert Road that will be part of the responsibility of the districts to finance and acquire. The districts will own and maintain the internal streets, the landscaping, open space, and stormwater facilities, and the city of Aurora will own and maintain the water and sewer services. Because this is a change from what we've seen in service plans in the past here in Elbert County, where the district is responsible for both ownership and maintenance of the internal improvements, all of them. We do have in these service plans an uncapped operations mill levy, and Graham referred to that, and he put a slide up, I hope you saw that, of the anticipated operations expenses on an annual basis at full build out at about $434,000 a year. And I wanted to point out to you on that slide, $176,000 of that was for reserves for the replacement and repair of roads. And you guys don't need to be told this, but it's a significant cost to undertake that kind of maintenance. And so the mill levy that has to be put aside to make sure that this district can do that kind of proper maintenance is significant. It represents 40% of the overall operations budget that's shown in the service plans. Next slide, please. Graham went through the financing with you in detail, so I'm not going to repeat everything he said, but we do have a mill levy cap for debt in the Elora Metropolitan District of 55.664 mils, and in the Commercial Metropolitan District of 50 mils. And then we just talked again about there's no cap right now on the O&M mill levy because of the anticipated level of maintenance that's going to be required. We want to emphasize that taxpayers outside the Elora development do not contribute to the taxes of the district in any way, nor does the county, nor does any other government. Here, growth pays its own way. Next slide, please. Estimated cost of the public improvements, and this is a combined cost for both districts, $34,245,240. Only public improvements are funded by metropolitan districts. The developer is responsible for what we define as, under statute, as the private development costs, which includes overlap grading, electrical infrastructure, gas infrastructure, and wet utilities serving lots, meaning going from the mains to each individual home or property. County is not responsible for the cost of district public improvements, nor are you responsible for any debt issued by the district. Next slide. The developer and the districts tonight are requesting a recommendation of approval from the Planning Commission. The amended and restated service plans are anticipated to be heard by the Board of County Commissioners on January 24th next year. And that's my presentation. If you have any questions, happy to answer them.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, public comment. Okay, hearing none. Around the horn.
I have a question. So I'm getting conflicted statements in regards to who will own and maintain the internal roads and the storm and detention ponds. You said the district. My packet here on page 794 says the proposed roads will be owned and maintained by the county, as well as the detention pond and stormwater.
Thank you, Commissioner. Dan Sheldon. It's funny you asked the question. My consultant just actually passed me his notepad and said, is the district owning the roads or are we dedicating them to the county? And I thought that we were dedicating them to the county with the understanding that our district was going to be responsible for perpetual maintenance of them, and hence the large budget that you saw there for road maintenance. Is that, Is that your understanding? I guess I got maybe confused here because now I've heard it two different ways.
It needs to be
presented here tonight
clarified.
as well.
It needs to be clarified for sure.
Sorry.
Absolutely, we do need to clarify it. And it could be that I was getting confused between this property and EC West, which you guys heard last month. And originally, the city or the county was going to own all those internal improvements, but they've most recently come back to us and said that they want us to do all ownership and maintenance. So
I think that was presented that way on that project. I think it was presented that way.
So I will tell you that the districts are willing to do it either way. If the county wants to own those improvements and then enter into an intergovernmental agreement for us to perpetually maintain, we can do that. Or we can do the ownership and maintenance, whichever is the preference of the county. And fortunately, the language of the service plan allows that. It just says that any improvement that the county doesn't take, it belongs to the district to maintain. So, but I do think we need to get some clarity on who's gonna do that.
I agree. That's the only question I had, Danny.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe, I'm not sure if tonight's decision about the district is, about these amendments is, I'm not saying it's not relevant, the answering this question is not relevant.
It isn't relevant at this point.
But it's going to get vetted out in the next few weeks or into January when we dig into this. My team will start discussing it with legal and with the county staff, and we'll figure out.
Believe me, the county is going to be sure that that is settled.
But we're
I'm sure, and
being
we
asked
could,
to approve what we're seeing in our packet.
right,
And that's what we're seeing in our packet versus what you're saying in your presentation.
right. I was going to say.
That's where I'm having some conflict.
And I apologize. I think that was me thinking about the discussions we've had with EC West, and assuming that you would want the same kind of structure set up in Elora. But as I said, the language in the service plans allows it to go either way. And if you want, in your recommendation tonight, you could ask for clarification.
That would be.
Yeah, so that we're certain before we go to the Board of County Commissioners what we're doing.
Sorry we're doing this little back and forth. If it pleases the board, I might suggest that the staff report that you have, I think, is what we intended to be the outcome, meaning we were told by Road and Bridge early when we came in and met in this room or in the summer that there was going to be no maintenance taken over by the county. And we accepted that and we said, okay, we understand. We're going to have our district do that. Is that acceptable to Road and Bridge? And they said, yes, that would be fine. I think the plan always was then, still remains today, and maybe we got it lost a little bit in communication, maybe confusing it with one of the other projects that Diane is working on. But I think the intent is, and I think we should plan for it to be heard tonight in such a way.
I'm actually not sure it was her confusion. I think it's confusion in our packet.
No, but I think
her presentation was accurate.
in your packet, I believe, is correct. I think in your packet it says that the roads will be conveyed to the county but maintained in perpetuity by our district. That's
794.
If they did, they changed it because the normal process has always been, even though some of us wanted to see it differently, the process has always been the roads will be owned by the county, maintained by the district.
And that's what I think the intent here tonight is, and that's what we're willing to do.
That's been pretty much how it goes, and this is a little confusing. However, I can tell you before they go forward, it will be settled.
We'll get it vetted out, yeah.
Yeah, and I think if tonight, if we just put a condition that roadway ownership is determined, or could at least highlighted prior to going to the board.
That'd be fine with us.
I'm okay with that.
So,
thank you.
Okay.
Here you go.
the fact that all the other districts that are in the county have HOA fees, exorbitant HOA fees, as a matter of fact. Why does this project not have an HOA fee?
I'm not going to leave again. I'm going to stay up here.
I'm sorry.
No, not at all. I was kidding. It's simply that we're only asking for as much as we need. I can't speak to other communities that have districts and HOAs. Our district does intend on doing the services of a typical HOA, architectural review, covenant control, those kind of things. So why other districts have district mills in addition to HOA fees, I can't speak to other communities.
But you do have that intent for the district to act as though you do have that, and there's going to be residents on the board for that, right?
On the district board.
On the district board.
Yes, ma'am.
And that will function like.
Yeah, it's relatively new in the last several years, but districts are kind of taking the place of HOAs, and many jurisdictions prefer that, so you don't have overlapping, sometimes conflicting entities that are not talking to each other real well.
You didn't term it the same way. I don't think it's termed normally. Normally you see overlay districts. That seems to be what we see when, like in Independence, it was an overlay district that acted as your HOA.
For both Independence and EC West.
And EC
we have
West.
overlay districts. We're talking about developments there with thousands of homes. And so it's a way of making sure that everybody in that community has a voice here. We have a much smaller number of residences, and an overlay district.
You didn't section it out as a specific district defined as that which is an overlay district.
Right.
Okay.
Right, that's all.
That help? Okay.
All right, I'm good.
I just had one question. In looking at the numbers, are you assuming a property value of $800,000?
That's a great question. We are working with.
That's not really what I could.
Consider an affordable product or an attainable product?
Yeah.
We are working with a number of builders and with folks in the market right now, and we don't know exactly how this is going to shake out. We were guided to make assumptions based on a conservative approach. Now, clearly, if we tell you that the market value of these homes is going to be $875,000, and they come in half of that, there's not the same amount of bond proceeds available to us. There's roughly half of it. Yeah. So I recognize that, and we are simply following right now what is market value, as Graham mentioned, in the area. We're kind of trending in that direction because we don't know exactly who our builder is going to be and what product is going to go in there yet, but we have to start making some assumptions at this time. Well, I could have easily picked that they were $385,000 homes too, but that would be erring on the very low side. So the decision we made was to err on the conservative side.
Yeah, but that really, like you said, it limits your bonding capability.
It may change and go down. There's no doubt. We're aware of that. But you're right to.
Costs, okay, to put the roads in and develop it and to put the water and everything in.
That's
not going to change.
Correct.
So that puts the onus back on the property owner, that they're going to have to. They're going to
put that inflation.
Fund the difference between what bond proceeds are available to help finance the infrastructure. We, the developer, builder, whomever it is going to have to fund that shortfall. That's correct. Okay. And that's typical for any development we do.
As long as you're aware that that's on you, not on the homeowner.
100%.
Wayne.
I had a question for Graham. Thank you for your excellent presentation. Is there a correlation to the rating investment rating and the, let me just say, deal size or debt limit that is going to be bonded? Is there it seems like a number of projects are larger number of homes, and is there a correlation to, these are like $250 million or more projects, and is the bond market favoring smaller chunks, and I'm speaking to stability and financial returns, so,
Yeah. Honestly, I'm seeing big projects and small issuances right now. I guess kind of stepping back for a minute, when these types of bonds are issued, the market study, the market analysis will be included in the bond offering statement. And you oftentimes, if they're doing 6% biennial inflation underwriting, it would also include an appreciation study. And those are very, very important documents that bond investors would really pore over. And so this kind of gets into some of the magic that the investment bankers do on their side, some conversations and whatnot, and access in terms of the bond investors' access that I don't have, but that's kind of an ongoing conversation there between them, regarding the question as to whether there be a different coupon rate on a small project versus a big project. Not necessarily. I think it's more broadly in terms of what the market analysis shows and how aggressive those underwriting assumptions are. Is it a more aggressive projected build out versus a less aggressive? Now, if you have a project, for example, that's a 20-year build out, many thousands of homes, and perhaps we've seen applications and projects like that as well. Obviously, the bonds would have to be kind of chunked up, different issuances there, and that's more from the technical side, because you can't issue something off of a 20-year build out. Is that kind of helpful?
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand that correlation for stability question, ensuring that there's money out there for this project, and if the market is getting tighter or tighter in some areas, I see usually larger investment deals in tighter markets because larger investors want to deal with large chunks and not the stuff that might be. Am I making sense on the question?
Yeah, I was also going to suggest if the applicant's underwriter is still on the phone, she would be the perfect person to.
I was just about to offer, Commissioner, if it would please the board, I'm happy to introduce Shelby Noble from Piper Sandler. She is available on the call right now. She just sent me a text, and I'm sorry that I'm doing that, but she's been on the phone now for 3 hours listening in. So she suggested that she's available to chime in and answer your question about sizing and risk and rate, if you would be interested in hearing from
I don't want to take any time.
I think it's a
interest to the rest.
I think it is. I think it's a really fair question.
Okay, can we open this up for Shelby?
Are you on here, Shelby? Let's see. Are you on the call? Let's see. Says she's here. Might have to do something different with the speakers. Let's see. Can you try speaking again? Anything? Yeah.
See if you can unmute her.
Yeah, let me see. It says she's unmuted. We'll try on these speakers.
Enter your meeting ID.
Are you there, Shelby?
I mean, that's the protection here.
Might have to have her call in. call in for. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, just hold it up. But.
Now, there are 4 participants in the meeting.
All right, can everyone hear me now?
Yeah.
That's better. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you, but I just can't have my mic on because it'll have bad feedback.
Okay, then I will speak. So, nice to see everyone this evening. I am an underwriter with Piper Sandler, and we are the leading issuer of non-rated debt across the U.S., and so this is our specialty. We have been issuing bonds of all sizes. Right now I have transactions that are less than $4 million where we are getting financing for it, and we also have transactions that are $100 million. So it really is a function of making sure the credit is far enough along. There are, in your first question, you were asking about rating agencies and insurance. We can also get smaller deals financed through banks that will also provide lending opportunities to metro districts. So I have several transactions right now that are being financed through local banks, including NBH and others within Colorado here. So very familiar with that, and there are all types of financing options available, not necessarily specific to the size of the transaction. It's more about the type of credit that is available. But we issue bonds from $1 million up to, well over $100 million. I'll pause there for additional questions.
Thank you.
All right, the commissioner said thank you.
Okay, at this time, we wanted to draft an additional condition. The issue of roadway ownership and maintenance be clarified prior to BOCC presentation. Does that sound?
That sounds good.
Okay.
Can you repeat that, please?
Yes, the issue of roadway ownership and maintenance be clarified prior to BOCC presentation.
Let's include the storm and detention pond as well, because there's
That's
conflict
the
here.
roadway maintenance and ownership will cover it all.
Okay.
I believe we need a vote to amend that. So I'll move that is an added condition.
I'll second that.
Pardon me?
I'll second it if you made a motion.
I can make the motion, and so that language, I move that language be placed as a condition.
I'll second.
Okay, second? Okay, so all in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye? Okay. So do you have that?
Yeah, we have that. We have that in.
Okay. So at this time, do we have any other questions? Vote. Have a motion? It is Sterling Crossing amended and restated service plans for metropolitan districts. Laura's, actually, here it doesn't have a number.
Oh, it doesn't have a number. Well, I move that we send this to the county commissioners with the amendment and exceptions that we have discussed in approval form.
For recommended approval.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Eric's got the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I believe unanimous vote?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Okay, thank you, folks. Have a good night. Be careful.
Van, who was your second?
Eric.
Done.
I wanted to get open before 11. We did. All right.
You did.
Yeah.